Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to call our meeting to order. Welcome to our meeting this evening. We're going to have a roll call by our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
If you'll all rise and join us, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led tonight by Councilmember Green.
All right, place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. Interpretation is being provided for tonight's meeting. To ensure that headsets are working, please give a thumbs up if you can hear our interpreter correctly. Is anybody listening to the interpreter? I don't see any hands. Yes, other hands? Big hands. Do you see anybody?
Kathy, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So if they're working great, great. Then if the device stops working during the meeting, please raise your hand and a staff member will assist you. If they're not working, give us a few minutes. But are they working? Did we decide they're working? Kathy, yes, okay. So head's shaking, okay. So I'd like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and to facilitate city business without disruption of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for the items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. Attendees should remain seated during the meeting, and persons needing to stand are requested to step outside the City Council chambers where video and audio of the meeting are playing. This is also listed on your agenda cover sheet. Addressing the City Council, and to speak to the City Council, we're going to allow 2 minutes this evening on an item on the agenda, so please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you want to speak on and give it to the clerk's secretary. Speaker slips are available just outside the council chambers, and if it's okay with the council, I'm going to give 2 minutes tonight for the speakers because we have a lot of speakers. Okay, with that, we have approval of the agenda by our city manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes this evening.
Okay, we have 2 presentations this evening. I'm going to come down there, and the council can join me down there. The first is a presentation is the recognition of the Adopt-A-Block volunteers. And then next we're going to have a North County Transit District update. So first we'll come down there and do our Adopt-A-Block volunteers. Here. Am I on? There, okay. Through the city's Adopt-A-Block program, groups or individuals adopt an area of the city to help keep clean. The city provides the supplies, while the groups provide the volunteer manpower. And tonight we'd like to recognize the Vista Clean Environment Group. This group of 35 volunteers provided over 750 volunteer hours through bi-monthly cleanup activities. So I'm going to call their names. I want them to please come to the front of the room when I call their name and remain up front here so we can take a group picture. So we're going to start with Maria Cerrone de Velasco. Is Maria here? She's followed by Jessica M. Velasco Cerrone. And then Brian Velasco. And Christopher Velasco. Next is Sylvia Garrido Mendez. Maria Solomon. Rigoberto Solomon. David Solomon. Alexandra Solomon. And Gabriella Solomon. Well, the Velasco family and the Solomon family are very active in helping clean up. So now we have some more here. Yasmin Morales Lopez. Is Yasmin? Clementina Lopez. And Richard Morales Lopez. Alma Garrido. Alma here. Ulysses Angelino Garrido. Is Ulysses? Kimberly Delgado. Is that here? Delfina Delgado. Brian Delgado. Ruby Delgado. And Orquídea Contreras. Is that relation to you? Okay, so those are our adoptive block. We can thank all of these people for helping keep our city clean. So, thank all of you. So, you want to come up here, up forward more? Yeah, okay, come on, everybody up here. We're going to gather together, kind of crowd together. Let's come up in front. Come up. Our next presentation will be North County Transit District Update, provided by Damon Blythe and Kimberly Hayford. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm here from North County Transit District to give you an update on our activities related to our budget and capital items. So we are about to approve a 5-year budget plan at our next board meeting. The 4 goals listed here are major projects for us that we want to embark on over the next 5 years. The first one of those is improve Breeze bus service frequencies. I'll touch on that in just a second. The second one is implementing 30-minute peak service frequencies for Coaster. So currently the Coaster commuter rail runs anywhere from 25 minutes to 211 minutes between trains. We want to shorten that down to every 30 minutes in the rush hour and every 60 minutes in the middle of the day. We want to implement 15-minute frequencies for Sprinter. So right now Sprinter in each direction runs every half an hour. We want to start the process to get Sprinter down to every 15 minutes in both directions. And then finally implement a comprehensive program for first and last mile services. So this is a variety of projects that we're going to be undertaking to greatly enhance the connectivity from the rail stations to the areas surrounding the rail stations. The Breeze bus service frequencies, as we implement Coaster frequencies and Sprinter frequencies, all of our Breeze buses are tied to either a Coaster or Sprinter station or sometimes both. at each end. And so as we make changes to the rail schedule, we'll make according changes to the bus schedule as well. So we have some studies to increase transit ridership. As you may or may not be aware, transit ridership at NCTD is down along with most of the nation. There's a variety of reasons for it, but one of the biggest reasons is the low cost of cars, the low cost of credit to buy those cars, and the low cost of fuel. We are undertaking a couple of studies to help us figure out ways that we can increase ridership along with the capital program. So the three studies I want to highlight here are the Land Use and Transit Integration Study. So this is being conducted in conjunction with local jurisdictions to look at what the land use is around our transit area and make recommendations to both the city and to NCTD to help us optimize transit around those land uses. So where we see opportunity for greater transit density because of the choices that the city or developers have made, we want to do that, but also to help the cities be informed about future land use possibilities and where we see potential for opportunities for greater density that would enhance transit use in that area. So we anticipate that that's going to be complete in September of this year. The Strategic Multimodal Transit Implementation Plan builds upon that. So basically we take the recommendations that were made for NCTD in that prior study and we develop implementable service plans based on those recommendations. That's about to kick off and that'll be complete in about a year from now. And then the last one is a public benefit study. So everybody thinks that because they don't ride transit, transit has no use for them, but the opposite is true. Even if you don't ride transit, it provides a benefit to you in taking cars off the road, making transportation available for people who don't own a car to get to work, to get to doctors' offices, to get to other employment or activities. So that public benefit study is going to be kicking off here shortly, and we anticipate that that'll be complete by the end of this year. So we're also undertaking a couple of capital projects that we believe will help us increase ridership. So the first of those is a procurement of locomotives and rail cars for increased frequencies. So obviously if I want to run more trains, I have to have more equipment to do that. So we've reached out to Sandag to ask for their assistance in ordering 2 more locomotives and 10 more passenger cars that will help us increase the frequencies on Coaster. We're also in the process of buying our first set of 6 battery electric buses. We expect that we're going to go out on the street to procure those in late this year or early January. We're implementing a pilot project of 6 battery electric buses. We'll have those buses on property for a minimum of 12 years because that's how long you keep a bus. But we'll be studying the effects of the batteries and how long they last and how long the charge lasts for a period of 3 to 5 years before making a decision on exactly how we want to go zero emissions. You may or may not be aware, but the state has mandated that all transit agencies go to zero emission buses by 2040. By 2027, I have to start ordering those buses though. So we're doing an on-demand rideshare pilot at the Poinsettia Coaster Station. This is being done in conjunction with the City of Carlsbad and Sandag. The purpose of this is to take a look at a different way of offering last mile services to the Carlsbad Business Park. We currently have a bus route that kind of circles around there. In order to service that area, though, it's a pretty big area, and we are doing it with just one bus, and so it results in ride times that are sometimes not long or too long for passengers. And so we're trying to do this with a variety of smaller vehicles to hopefully decrease the ride time and increase the use of Coaster and that last mile service. And then the last one is a micromobility pilot at Cal State San Marcos. We're working with them. The original thought was to use bikes and scooters. That does not seem to be panning out. CSUSM has some concerns about that, so we're looking at a couple of other alternatives. We don't have a lot of details on it yet, though. So one of the other big projects I wanted to talk about was the signage and wayfinding plan. So if you've been out to a Sprinter station, the Sprinter was built all at one time, so the signage at the Sprinter stations is pretty cohesive. But if you go look at the signage at a coaster station, you'll notice that each coaster station kind of has its own flavor. Some of the coaster stations were upgraded with new signage as Sandag went in and did new projects, and some of them were not. Some of them had city mandates on signage that we put in there, and some of them did not. So as a result, we're going back and we're going to brand the entire system, all of our rail stations and our 2 bus-only stations, to be more cohesive and more even-looking and more consistent with the NCTD brand. We're going to be reaching out to the cities as part of that project, though, because we want to make sure that we are developing signage at those locations that makes it easy for our customers to find places in your city that you think that they should be going from transit. One of the other things is the updated NCTD website. I don't know if any of you had visited the website more than 3 months ago. We'll just leave it at that. We had 3 different websites, basically, an English version, a Spanish version, and a mobile version. If you wanted to make a change, you had to make a change to 3 websites. Everything that was on the mobile version was highly condensed, and it wasn't optimized. So if you found something on the desktop site, it might not be on the mobile site because the mobile site was designed to be as fast as possible. But that's not really what websites do these days. So we modernized the website. So now the same website that's on desktop is on mobile. We've integrated the trip planner with Google instead of trying to do our own thing. Google's already got a great trip planner, so we just feed into that. We also increased the availability of information on there, like the schedules. It pulls directly from our schedule database rather than having a PDF, so it's a lot faster and a lot more responsive. We're in the process of implementing a customer relationship management software. So right now, we just have an old database that we use to track comments on our system. This new software will not only keep track of all those comments, but it will also allow us to be more direct in our messaging to our customers. We'll be able to do things like text out alerts to our customers. The website will have more information about alerts and be more responsive. And then real-time trip information. So right now we have the ability to track our buses in near real time. The bus reports back about every 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Coaster and Sprinter don't have any tracking on them at all. We're implementing a piece of software that will not only track the buses every 10 to 15 seconds, but will also do that for Sprinter and Coaster. And it will also give us information on Metrolink and Amtrak trains as well. So a customer that's sitting at the Oceanside Transit Center will have one source of information to go to rather than a variety of different sources. And then the next generation regional fare collection system. So you may or may not be aware, but we share a fare system with the MTS, Metropolitan San Diego Transit System. That fare system is about 10 years old. Technology that's 10 years old isn't the most up-to-date and current thing. So MTS has gone out for a contract with a company called Init. Init is going to be providing the hardware and software for us, and we're just going to be partner with MTS on this. The current fare system, it's pretty clunky. It's not very user-friendly. This new system will allow you to pay your fares with your phone, pay your fares with a credit card, pay your fares. You can buy tickets online and load them on your card. You can do that now, but it usually takes 2 or 3 days for the value to show up on your card, whereas this system will be instantaneous. And the picture here, you may notice that's not a NCTD bus, that's a Portland TriMet bus. The system's already in use in TriMet and a number of other cities. It's proven to be highly reliable and highly user-friendly. So in terms of our capital priorities, this is a list of all the projects that I've been talking about and a couple more. So the top of our list is a $72 million project to support improvements, including the construction of stabilization measures at the Del Mar Bluffs. So the coaster currently runs along the Del Mar Bluffs. If the Del Mar Bluffs fall, we no longer have coaster service, but it gets even worse because then Amtrak can't get to San Diego and neither can freight on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. So it's a very high priority project for us. We've been working with Sandag to implement stabilization over the last 20 years. This is a project that we've been building on slowly and making improvements as we go along. The next one was a state of good repair facilities projects and expansion. So as you can imagine, my buses right now are fueled by CNG. If I want to move to charging buses overnight with electricity or possibly hydrogen buses, I need a whole new infrastructure to do that. And with battery electric buses, because of the range issues, you might actually need more buses than you have. We're currently studying all of this, but right now our rough guess is we're going to probably need about $56 million to support improvements to the east and west facilities where we charge and house those buses right now. The next one was $53 million. That's the replacement and the overhaul of the coach cars and cab cars that we currently have. We have 8 coach cars and 8 cab cars that were part of the original coaster, so they're almost 30 years old now. They've reached the end of their useful life, and we've got the remaining 10 coach cars and 2 cab cars that need midlife overhauls. The next one was $48.6 million. That's the replacement of Breeze, Flex, and Lift buses that have reached the end of their useful life. That mostly includes the replacement of CNG buses, but that also includes the purchase of those 6 zero-emission buses I was speaking about. The next one is $43 million. That's the expansion of the coaster that we submitted to Sandag. $15 million for the state of good repair. So we purchased 5 locomotives already. We have a total of 7 locomotives in our fleet, and we need 9 to go to 30 minutes. So we've asked Sandag to fund 2 complete train sets. We've funded 5 locomotives, but we need an additional 2 locomotives to be replaced because I have 2 more that are about to reach the end of their useful life in about 2.5 years. The next one was $14.8 million to design and construct a new maintenance of way building and a new administrative building. $12.5 million for our share of that regional implementation of the fare system, and then $2.6 million for non-revenue vehicles. These would be like the white staff cars that you see people driving around in to do company business. For all of those needs, we have applied for grants. These are just some of the federal and state programs that we've applied for. Some of these are for the locomotives, some of them are for the facilities, some of them are for the right-of-way projects. So what I'm here tonight to stress most is how can you help? So you guys have meetings with state and federal officials. We would ask that when you have those meetings with state and federal officials that you advocate for not only your needs but NCTD's needs as well. Our success depends on partnerships with all of our cities. When we do apply for those grants, we do submit letters to the cities to ask for their support in signing those grant letters. So we would just continue to ask that you provide support in that way. Participate in the stakeholder and public outreach events for not only our land use, but also the multimodal transit implementation plan. You guys have already been participating on the land use one, and we appreciate it. We would just ask that you continue to support that. And that concludes my presentation.
I have questions here. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for a great presentation. I wanted to just ask you to reiterate when you will be increasing the frequency for the Sprinter going across. You mentioned earlier in your speech.
So
You're
our plan, we have a 5-year budget outlook that we do every year we move it 1 more year in the future, so we're always looking out 5 years. The Sprinter, it's an ambitious goal. It's probably not going to happen. But we can at least get the planning and start getting some of the construction, if not underway, at least funded, and at least get some of those vehicles procured. Buying a bus or buying a train is not like going to the car lot and buying a car, right? It's not sitting there on the lot. We've got to specify what we want. We issue that out in the form of an RFP, a request for proposals. We'll get requests or we'll get proposals back from vendors. For locomotives, there's basically 3 vendors in the United States that'll build us a locomotive. For passenger cars, there's maybe 2. For a DMU like the Sprinter, there's really only 1, but we still need to go out there and make sure that nobody else wants to propose on it. Once you do that, once you enter into the contract, now you're looking at for a bus, usually 12 months from the time that I tell the bus manufacturer I want to buy buses to the time that they show up. Locomotives could be 2.5 to 3 years. Passenger cars, 2.5 to 3 years.
So we're still quite a ways out before we're looking at increasing the frequency of pickup times?
Right. It's probably more like 7 to 10 years, but the next 5 years are going to lay the groundwork on whether or not we would actually reach that.
I got an email from a constituent this morning asking me to ask you to please increase the frequency of pickup times, especially during peak hours of people trying to get to work.
Right.
So just to let you know that it's being asked for, and I
We would love
appreciate
to.
what you're doing. And I also like the idea of your new signage. I think that will benefit all of our communities. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to underscore your request for timely action from the city and make sure that we delegate authority to the city manager to sign on to any letters supporting grant applications that NCTD has made at his discretion. So I don't know if we need to bring that back. I think maybe the city manager might already have that authority. But just to underscore that, that's something that we've been specifically asked by NCTD is to be kind of on a rapid response in supporting their requests, and that's certainly something we can do and want to do.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to ask a little bit more about the Sprinter. I think that's great news, increasing it to 15 minutes. I wish it were going to happen sooner, but I'm really curious as to what's the innovation that is allowing us to go from about 26 minutes between stops to about 15.
Maybe I misspoke. So right now the Sprinter runs every half an hour. So meaning that if it leaves the station at 5:03, the next train is at 5:33. What we're seeking to do is increase the number of trains. So we would go from 5:03 to 5:18 to 5:33 so your train departs every 15 minutes. The runtime end to end likely won't change. It may shrink just a little bit. We are looking at some schedule improvements now. Right now it's 53 minutes from Oceanside to Escondido. We're looking at some improvements to grade crossings and some slight track modifications that might bring that down to 50 minutes. But that's about as much as we're going to be able to shrink the runtime end to end. What really needs to happen is, so right now, I don't know if you're familiar with the Sprinter, but it's basically a single track railroad, meaning it's only got one track, and then we've got sections of track where it's double track, meaning trains can pass each other. So what we need to do, the Sprinter literally can't change its schedule right now unless I adjust the train departures from both ends at the same time. It literally has to run every half an hour because that's the way the system is designed. Thankfully, though, when we designed the system and we built the system, we left room to put in double track almost everywhere. So there's one location that's going to be a huge expense, and so obviously we're going to try and skip that. And that's part of the loop bridge that leaves CSUSM and goes towards Escondido. It's single track. It goes over the freeway. It's got a big, huge curve in it, and there's really not a lot of room for us to build an additional bridge there. Thankfully, almost the entire rest of the railroad, we could easily lay down another section of track tomorrow if we had the funds to do so. So part of our strategy there is we're looking at where those track segments would need to be to make us to allow us to run every 15 minutes. And we're going to be chasing after a grant application because this is one it's an easy swing, right? It's double track. We just got to lay it down. The grading's already done. We might have to build an additional platform or two and buy some DMUs, and we could be running 15-minute service. So it's not an expensive project. It's just you got to get the grant application. You got to get the schedule written. You got to go order those DMUs. So that's what we're seeking to
the
do.
frequency is in essentially being able to access one of the cars, right? So it's not going to go faster.
Nope.
Okay. Now, as far as getting a new, Sprinter, or whatever the case is, it's kind of heavy right now. Is that one of the reasons why it's so slow? I mean, what is it that we could do? I think every 15 minutes of frequency is great, but if it's still taking a ton of time to get from one place to another, the reason people want to use it is to be able to get somewhere faster. I know when I was using the Sprinter, I was going to work at about 6:30 in the morning, and it wasn't faster than me using the freeway and going to Escondido, even with traffic. I would beat the Sprinter by a few minutes. So is there anything in the horizon or anything being thought of to actually reduce the time, the run time, the travel time?
Like I said, we can shave off a few minutes here and there by making improvements to the grade crossings. So the CPUC, the Public Utilities Commission, actually regulates our activities on the Sprinter line. And one of their mandates, those DMUs, when we implemented them, were the only ones in the state, and the CPUC had zero experience with them. And so one of the mandates was that we would only be allowed to go through grade crossings at 48 miles an hour. The train tops out at 55 miles an hour. So every single time I get to a grade crossing, if I'm going faster than 48 miles an hour, I have to slow down and only do 48 miles an hour through the grade crossing. That doesn't sound like a huge decrease in speed, but when you're talking about the fact that I do that 40-some times over the course of the run, it all adds up. So if we can make that improvement, we can shave a few minutes off. The DMU, the Sprinter, actually, when you compare our average travel time over the same distance to other light rail systems in the U.S., we're actually a few miles an hour faster in average speed than a lot of other light rail systems in the U.S. So it's not necessarily that it's slow, it's just that you're talking about a 22-mile trip from end to end. And unfortunately, we have to stop at every station. There's no express trains, so it's always going to take a little bit of time. As far as the competing against traffic, the one positive thing I can say about it is that while it may not be faster than your car, it is a reliable travel time every time. And one of the things in transit people always look for is reliability and frequency. And so if we can increase the frequency that train arrives, it means that you no longer have to worry about when you arrive at the station. You can just go to the station and know that a train's never more than 15 minutes away.
Yeah, theoretically that's true. I mean, I've been on the Sprinter when it's broken down. It made it really inconvenient. So my question really is on the technology of the Sprinter, and are these unique parts that are costing us a ton of money every time we have to replace it? Trying to see what we can do to just make it a more reliable system, understanding some of the complexities that we run into when trying to make it go faster. So maybe there's not so much room there to work with, but as far as the locomotive or whatever you call it itself, I'm kind of curious as to, is there a way to make it a little bit lighter, to make the brakes last longer? I mean, because some of those replacements that have had to happen are really, really expensive.
Yes, yeah. So the current cars that we have, when we purchased them, they were the only DMUs that were really available to us at the time. They were not Buy America compliant, meaning they weren't built in America. Those cars were actually built in Germany by Siemens. They are the only 12 DMUs of their kind, or trains of their kind, in the North American continent. They exist all over in Germany. So as you can imagine, getting spare parts is sometimes difficult. We are in the middle of capital rebuilds on all 12 cars. They're doing work on the engines, they're doing work on the trucks, they're doing work on the wheels, they're doing works on the brakes, air conditioning, repainting them, interior refreshes. It's basically a midlife overhaul. None of those things are designed to make the train faster, but they are designed to make the train more reliable.
Okay, that's good. And lastly, I just want to touch upon bus shelters and benches, especially at bus stops where there's a lot of people using it. So what's the plan to have a little bit more, a nicer place for people to at least be able to sit down? I mean, I know when I'm looking at some individuals waiting for the bus and it's a hot day, I've literally seen people standing in the shadow of the light pole to get a little bit of shade. Yep. So can you speak to that a little bit?
So we're currently, the service planning department is putting together a list of about 100 to 150 bus stops where we've got high ridership and no amenities, meaning no bench, no shelter, no trash can. And a lot of those stops, they also require like a little bit of concrete work to make them ADA compliant, meaning we either need like a sidewalk leading to them, or we need a pad poured where somebody with a mobility device can board the bus easily. So we're developing that list right now of our top ridership spots that don't have any of those amenities. And we're actually going to be inviting all of the cities to participate in a meeting with us to discuss how we go about getting some of these amenities taken care of. Not necessarily the shelter. We realize that that's mostly an NCTD responsibility unless the city wants to partner up on that. But the concrete work, sidewalk improvements, concrete pads poured, those would all be things that we would look to the cities to help with. So expect probably, I would say in the next 2 or 3 months to have that meeting with us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Green.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation, sir. Question for you. So in looking at all your capital priorities, it looks like it's about $275 million worth of improvements. Question for you. When you started out, you said that ridership was down on all forms of our transit. And I'm wondering, I didn't see anything there about marketing to improve ridership or any type of ridership incentives or anything like that. It seems a little redundant to spend hundreds of $millions improving a transit system that nobody's using necessarily. So I'm wondering, what is it that we're doing to get more people to ride it before we, continue to spend a ton of money on
Well, let me throw that out there. If you build it, they will come.
Okay.
Part of the discussion and all of this, we have to have a reliable, up-to-date transit system if we want to attract more ridership. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She just made the excellent point that, I would hate to be on the train that broke down all the time. I'm probably not going to ride. So we need to make those investments if we want to even keep the ridership that we have, let alone grow the ridership. Right? Step number one. Step number two, by increasing frequencies, again, you're advertising to people that I'm interested in you riding my service, so I'm going to make service improvements. Service improvements always bring about ridership improvements. You're way more likely to go out and use the bus or use the train if you know that it shows up so frequently you don't even need to use a schedule. Right? Part of the problem right now with Coaster, we just had a presentation in our own board meeting. I literally have midday service on Coaster simply because the way the railroad is configured, the amount of equipment I have, the amount of operating funds I have a 211-minute gap. That's over 3 hours between trains in the middle of the day. If you miss your train, you're literally stuck for 3.5 hours where you're sitting. Would you be likely to board the train if you thought that was even a possibility?
Of course, no.
No, of course not, right? But if I told you that the train was coming every half an hour or every hour, you're way more likely to use the service. So once we start getting all of these capital improvements in place, that's when the marketing starts.
Okay.
Hence part of the website. The new website, we realized that we had a deficiency in the website. If people that know the website can't even find information on it, how am I supposed to point a customer to that and go, hey, use this website?
So once we have better stuff to market, we'll market better
Exactly.
and get people there.
Exactly.
So.
And we do already market. We have billboards up along like 78 and I-5 to show people, hey, you're stuck in traffic. Did you know there's a train that would take you along the same route? We've done that in the past. We'll continue to do that. We buy out ads on Facebook. We buy ads on websites. So we are marketing. It's not heavy right now, but again, we've got to get our house in order before we really start pushing marketing.
And just out of curiosity, what are the percentages at right now for what are people riding? What's the percentage of people riding the bus? What's the percentage of people that are commuting? People that are commuting that are participating in our transit as far as the bus goes and the train goes. Do you know
as
what
far
those
as
numbers
the
are
entire
roughly?
Population?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Well, I want to say it's anywhere between 3 and 5%, depending on what market and where you're talking about. It varies region by region.
Okay, so 3 to 5% total between the buses and trains. There's no separation between how the bus ridership is. Okay. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the zero emission buses. I'm sure you guys were excited to get that mandate. So good luck with that. Thank you for your presentation.
Funding mandate, yes.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just one more thought. You talked a lot about grade separation, and both for safety with increased number of trains, but more importantly for the efficiency of traffic. And that's something when we go out and we talk to our residents, it's the number one thing that we hear from the people that we represent is they want traffic to move better and safer. And so I didn't see major capital infrastructure priority for grade separation, but that is something, getting the train at a different level above or below the road surface so that it can move more efficiently and not interrupt traffic, and the train, frankly, is not interrupted by traffic either. That is super important that we prioritize that, and I think we need to, it's probably more expensive than everything else added up, but we still need to recognize that, and we need to give voice to that because 3% versus 97%, the 97% has to have some precedence. We have to give some voice to that because we're representing everybody.
So the grade separations that you're talking about are in the Sandag Regional Plan. There is a plan to, I don't think that it's every grade crossing on the Sprinter, but a majority of the ones at the big intersections like Vista Village Drive, College Drive, I can't think of the other ones right off the top of my head. There's about 10 roads that they plan to grade separate as part of the regional plan.
That's part of the new
That was in the original regional plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that, part of Transnet?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Part of the unfunded plan, though, right?
It's in the 2050, so it's they at least had funds for it somewhere, but it's way down the list.
Okay, I guess thank you so much for your report. We appreciate it.
Yep.
The next thing on our agenda is our consent calendar. The recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public may remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary, and items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following adoption of the calendar. We have 10 consent items this evening, and I have 2 from the general public has asked for 2 speakers on item C9. So, Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, I was looking to pull C9. Also, I was looking to pull C3.
Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion for the balance of the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. So we're going to go to item C3, which is Innovate 78 Memo of Understanding. And
Would you like a presentation, or do you just
I
have
would.
questions? Okay. We have our Economic Development Director, Kevin Ham, who can introduce the item.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. With me is Jennifer Shinnick. She's our Economic Development Specialist, and she'll give her presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. In 2014, the cities of Carlsbad, Escondido, Oceanside, San Marcos, and Vista started working together on a collaborative initiative to support and promote economic development opportunities along the 78 corridor. This work has culminated in the creation of Innovate 78, a regional brand focused on business retention, expansion, attraction, and workforce development. The Innovate 78 cities have contracted with the San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation, also called the Regional EDC, for the required services. Management of the contract rotates among the 5 cities. Under the proposed MOU, the City of Carlsbad will collect the funds from all the cities for the next year and make the required payments to the Regional EDC as outlined in the attached agreement. This collaborative model enables the 5 cities to pool resources to work on solutions to regional issues in a cooperative manner. Contracting with the EDC has the advantage of leveraging strong existing economic development efforts within the Innovate 78 cities, thereby further amplifying our efforts. Over the next 2 years, Vista will contribute $76,000 to all services for the contract, or $38,000 annually. Each city will continue to contribute an equal financial share to the Innovate 78 efforts and budget. Staff recommends adopting the attached council resolution, approving the MOU between the cities, and funding the Innovate 78 Economic Development Initiative. This concludes my presentation. Mr. Kevin Ham, Nakia Clark from the Regional EDC, and myself are available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks. I do have some questions. So seeing as the cities divide the payment equally, I'm going to ask a general question. Are we receiving more or less or equal return on investment compared to the other cities?
So if I take a look at just what we receive, and each city is different, right, depending upon the companies that we have in our community, over the term since 2014, since we've had the EDC on board, we've had about 175 engagements with companies with them. We've had 5 companies that have received grants under Cal Competes. The credits awarded to those companies have been $2.6 million. About 376 jobs were created, and they estimate about $385 million in new investments. So each city is different. I had looked earlier at Oceanside. I think they received about $1.5 million in Cal Competes credits for the businesses in their area. So it really depends on the businesses, the parts of the program moving forward. One example I can give is the very first company that we worked with was Dr. Bronner's. And we were able to bring Dr. Bronner's here. And if you look just at that company and their contributions to the city, that's in excess of the investment we have each year.
Thank you so much.
Is that all of your questions?
That's all my questions, and with that, I make a motion to accept C3.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, so please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. The next item is item C9, and we have two speakers. And the item is the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month. And so they have two speakers on that. Do you want to hear the speakers first?
I would love to hear the speakers first. Thank you.
Okay, our first speaker is Cliff Kaiser.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Why are we doing this? Why are you even considering this? There's a difference between not intruding on others' free will and promoting something to the community of highly questionable moral character. Promotion means we endorse it. We want more of it. Why do we want more of this? This is not a religious issue, although you could make a religious argument why this is not a good idea. A community like Vista has a long-standing high moral tradition. We've already seen the sad effects of this misguided pride and promotion with young children getting gender transition drugs and young boys appearing as drag queens amongst a bunch of pomp and circumstance. If you pass this, will you next pass for July a proud junkie month? In August, a sneaky adulterers month. In September, the cowardly spouse beaters month. In October, the happy HIV AIDS sharing month. There's plenty of communities around the U.S. and here in San Diego that support this. Vista doesn't need to be one of them.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Max Dispost.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Council Member. Thank you for having us. My name is Max Disposti. I'm actually a resident of the city Oceanside next door, but I'm also the CEO of the local LGBTQ Resource Center. I do support this resolution for millions of reasons. One of those is that we have a lot of people serving in our community, including this city, that happen to be LGBT. We have valued, honorable service members that happen to be LGBT that are just here in our cities. Our LGBT center serves about 10,000 people a year, including, young adults and adults in the community. We provide services like mental health and resources, but most of it, we provide a safe space for a lot of LGBT families that also work and live in the city, that they would like to see their own city representing them in a very simple gesture. I mean, you're not voting on having anything special happening in the city. I also want to share that for 10 years at City Oceanside has done a proclamation for our Pride. Actually, Oceanside is the sponsor of Pride by the Beach that happens to be in October, not in June. But and the Welcome Oceanside, the Chamber of Commerce have welcomed the resolution in the past 10 years because they do bring business to the city, because they're welcoming, because family feels safer when there is a city that from the leadership express their support on something that's just a human experience and a human diversity presence in our community. So I wanted to support the resolution, also to be available for any questions if there is even an opportunity to do that, because we are the only LGBT provider in North San Diego County, and we can tell you stories of the work we do with city governments, police departments, and sheriff departments. We've done training for them as well, and so we're very integrated part. We're not perverts, and we are actually part of this community fully. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Martha Alvarado. Do you guys remember that the only clapping we're allowed was during presentations at the beginning? So please refrain from clapping. Martha?
Good evening, Vista Council members, Mayor, and members of the community. My name is Martha Alvarado. I'm a mother, a teacher with 19 years experience, a Marine Corps veteran, and a school board trustee for Vista Unified School District, and more importantly, an ally for the LGBTQ community. I'm here today to speak in support of the LGBTQ resolution on the agenda. While I'm not speaking in an official capacity for my employer, for the Marine Corps, or Vista Unified, today I come to speak to you as a mother and a member of this community. First and foremost, I come to speak to all of you as a proud mother of a gay son. My son, Pedro, he grew up in this community, and for many, many years, he chose to keep quiet about being gay. I wish he would have felt the support that he needed early on from his community, including the schools, to feel safe, acknowledged, and embraced. Collectively, as a community, we all have to do more to show love and acceptance to our LGBTQ community, because tolerance is not enough. The LGBTQ community needs to feel safe. As a young Marine, I served with many Marines and sailors from the LGBTQ community. Today, there are many service members that continue to serve proudly, and guess what? Many of them live here in Vista. They spend their money here in Vista. They're your constituents and they're your neighbors. Tonight, I'm here to support them. As a trustee, I'm obligated to advocate for the students of Vista Unified who attend schools there and live here in your community, who identify as LGBTQ. Many are the children of your neighbors or your constituents. Tonight, I'm here to support them. Look around. The LGBTQ community and their allies are here. We are here, and we're not going anywhere, because love is love. I'm proud to say that things have changed quite a bit since my son graduated from Vista Unified Schools in 2014. I'm proud to say that Vista Unified has had the courage and commitment to provide LGBTQ competence training to all of their employees. It is the obligation of local governments and school districts to create a culture that generates love, inclusivity, and acceptance.
Your time is up.
Not bigotry or discrimination.
Thank you. Kathleen Boyle, followed by Cipriano Vargas.
Hi, good evening. I thought I wasn't going to speak tonight, but that first speaker just made my blood boil. I could just feel my blood pressure come from my feet and came out of the top of my head. I can't believe that putting LGBTQ people in the same category as addicts and adulterers, this is beyond the scope of civil society. To that speaker, your morality does not rule, nor should it rule the public. Consider Dick Cheney. He would not accept LGBTQ people unless he had a lesbian daughter. Yes? Unless he had a lesbian daughter. To the speaker, many people you know and like are probably closeted gay people who lead double lives, which takes an emotional toll because they don't want to confront people like you. My original thought about gay pride is that it's become such a fun time that often we forget what started the whole gay pride movement. I was living in the village when Stonewall happened, and it was not a happy time. The police went in there and beat people up for no reason except that they were gay. So we cannot go back to those times. And even though I'm so happy to see that it's become a happy occasion, we can't forget the past. And that first speaker reminds us what might happen if we do forget the past. Thank you.
Cipriano, followed by Lisa de Jesus.
Good evening, council members. My name is Cipriano, member of the Vista School Board, but I'm not here in that capacity. I'm here in the capacity to speak as an educator, as a former teacher, to speak for our students, not just in Vista, not just in California, but across the world. We know that our LGBTQ students face higher rates of suicide rate. We need to make sure we show love and compassion. We need to make sure that they are welcome and that they feel safe, regardless whether they're in our schools, in our city parks, or anywhere that they step on. And so I'm here to urge the council to vote yes in favor of this resolution, but also think about what kind of example do we want to set for our children? What kind of example do we want to set for the future of Vista? Think about that. Thank you.
Lisa de Jesus.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Lisa DeJesus, and I'm a resident of Vista. My daughter, Bianca, is married to a native Vistan, Lorena Vella. She's a police officer with the city of Carlsbad. They're upstanding citizens. They're homeowners in our community, and they're young. They have a 5-month-old son, my first grandchild. It's deeply disturbing to hear that ignorance still exists as demonstrated to you by the first speaker. I told my girls tonight that I was coming here to speak on a different matter, which I will, but in speaking on this matter, they looked at me like, really? There might be opposition to that? They're blessed because of people who went before them, who have stood up for their rights, who have marched for their rights, who have laid out the precursor to making laws for them to be who they are today. They don't even think about it. The city of Carlsbad doesn't condemn my daughter-in-law because she's a lesbian. I would never condemn them in any way, stretch, or form. I ask that you support this, acknowledge the young people, keep this wheel in motion that allows people to be who they are, and that the city can acknowledge all of its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you to all the speakers. I just want to share a little bit. So when we did the downtown CARES walk, I had the great pleasure of doing Main Street, at least a part of it. And we got to a business, and it was just phenomenal. So I got to talk to the general manager, and they ended up participating. They were like the first Vista restaurant to ever participate in dining out. And, you know, we were talking, and he said, out of all the events that have happened downtown, the dining out was the most fun and had the most customers come in. So, you know, many of you might not know, because I don't usually talk about it, but I am part of the community as well. So, you know, I think it's really great to just show people that we want to govern inclusively, right? And so with that, I'm actually going to read the resolution so that way everybody in the audience knows what's in it, because I know that, you know, these agendas go out and most people don't read it because it's like a full-time job. So I'm going to read it for you. So a resolution of the City Council of the Chartered City of Vista, California, proclaiming June 2019 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month in the City of Vista. The City Council of the City of Vista does resolve as follows. The City Council hereby finds and declares the following. Whereas our nation was founded on the principle of equal rights for all people, and the City of Vista supports the rights of every citizen to experience equality and freedom from discrimination, and whereas in June 1969, patrons and supporters of the Stonewall Inn in New York City staged a protest to resist harassment and discriminatory laws and practices against the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community. The protests 50 years ago marked the beginning of the modern LGBTQ movement, and whereas LGBTQ pride celebrations take place around the world every June to commemorate the beginning of the Stonewall riots, including San Diego LGBTQ pride that provides a significant boost to the region's economy with more than 200,000 attendees each year, and whereas Vista has a diverse community that includes people of all ethnicities, religions, and professions, and whereas everyone should be able to live without fear of prejudice, discrimination, violence, and hatred based upon race, religion, gender identity, or sexual orientation, and whereas the City Council urges all Vistans to respect and honor our diverse community and to celebrate and build a culture of inclusiveness and acceptance. Now, therefore, the mayor and members of the Vista City Council do hereby proclaim June 2019 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month in the city of Vista. With that, in those beautiful words, I make a motion to pass C9.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, seeing no further discussion on that, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. You got, oh yeah, okay. Much better. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, now, there's two public hearings this evening. The first public hearing is to receive testimony regarding the levy of assessments for fiscal year 2019 and 20. So our public hearing is now open. Finance Director Mike Sylvia will provide the staff report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. This first public hearing tonight is actually part 3 of an annual process to levy the assessments on parcels that benefit from the operations of the street lighting and maintenance districts. Previously, on March 26th, the Council ordered the preparation of the engineers' reports for the three districts. On May 14th, Council approved those 3 engineers' reports and set the public hearing for tonight to place the assessment charges on the fiscal year 2019-20 property tax roll. All the assessments are the same as the prior year. This is the public hearing that will place the assessments, annual assessments on the property tax roll for the districts. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, I would recommend opening, conducting, and closing the public hearing and approving the 3 resolutions associated with the item.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Madam Mayor, if there are no speakers, this is an administrative item required by law in order to levy these assessments. So I would make a motion that we conclude and close the public hearing and we adopt the 3 resolutions drafted by staff in order.
Councilmember Rigby.
I second that.
Okay, please cast your votes. See no discussion. That motion passes unanimously. Public hearing number 2, it's a public hearing to receive testimony regarding levy of, excuse me, the levy of delinquent fiscal year 2018-19 property-related administrative citation charges. This public hearing is now open. Finance Director Mike Sylvia will provide the staff report as well.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar to the last public hearing, this is an annual process which is required when collection efforts fail for property-related citations, such as accumulation of junk on property, outside storage of an inoperable vehicle, or an unpermitted home-based business. Code enforcement issues citations for property-related administrative fines, and in most cases, these fines are paid as a normal course of business. At times, the citations do go unpaid, and the city is forced to use other means for collection. As of May 22nd, there were 31 property-related fines totaling $25,758.60, for which the city has exhausted all reasonable means of collection. Because they are property-related, they may be placed on the property tax roll for collection. Again, this is a public hearing which would direct staff to place the delinquent amounts on the property tax roll for the citations detailed in Exhibit 3 of the item. If there are any questions, again, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I would recommend opening, conducting, and closing the hearing and approving the resolution for the item.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Madam Mayor, I just want to commend our code enforcement staff for the good work that they do. Frequently hear from residents about the need for more code enforcement, and these fines are certainly not something that we take lightly. I know the staff works with residents whenever possible to solve these code enforcement issues without levying fines, which is always what we want to do. This is not a revenue-generating item for the City of Vista. It costs us money to enforce the ordinances and the code, but it is ultimately about the standard of living and maintaining a clean community. So with that, as required by law, I would move that we close the public hearing and that we adopt the resolution drafted by staff next in order.
Councilmember Rigby.
I would second that motion. Thank you.
I see no further discussion. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. Moving on to our discussion items, we have 3 discussion items this evening. The first one, D1, is a proposed general plan amendment and zone change at the corner of Hacienda Drive and Matagual Drive. Community Development and Engineering Director John Conley is going to provide the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. This is a preliminary review of a proposed general plan amendment and zone change. The subject location is shown on the slide here. It is one parcel totaling 2.27 acres in size. The address is 536 Matagual Drive. It's located on the south side of Hacienda Drive, just east of Matagual Drive. The general plan designation on this property is currently low density, which is 2 units per acre in our general plan. And the zoning is estate residential, or E1, which is a half-acre minimum lot size. This is a bird's eye view of the property. You can see Hacienda Drive along the bottom of the slide. There's an existing home up in the upper part of the property at the top of the slide. Matagual Drive is on the right side, which is currently blocked for access. And Valeview Drive is on the left, which extends up into the neighborhood that is south of the property. A preliminary proposal was submitted to the city in May of this year for a 150-room hotel on the subject site. The proposed building would be a 4-story structure with a maximum height of 56 feet. The proposed hotel would be a Hilton Home 2 and True brand hotel. This proposal would require a general plan amendment from low-density residential to commercial general and a zone change from estate residential to commercial C2 designation. This shows what the proposed changes would be. The general plan designation on the left would change from low density to general commercial, and the zoning on the right would change from E1 to C2. These are included in your packet. This is a conceptual site plan that was submitted by the applicant that is also included in your packet, showing the preliminary layout for the proposed hotel. Would include a 4-story structure in the center of the site, along with a pool and amenity area in the front of the north side of the building, and it would be surrounded by parking areas. Some conceptual elevations were also provided showing the 4-story structure, which are also included in your packet. As you know, general plan amendment and zone change requests are completely at the discretion of the City Council, with formal recommendations required by the Planning Commission. Staff brings all preliminary requests for general plan amendments and zone changes before the City Council for discussion before we accept any formal planning application for a project. Should an application be accepted, the project would be formally reviewed and public hearings would be scheduled before the Planning Commission and City Council at the completion of the review process. Conversely, if the Council decides not to accept the application, no application will be accepted by the Planning Department. Staff is requesting the Council's direction related to acceptance of an application for the general plan amendment and zone change at this time. And that completes my staff presentation. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to hear the speakers first? Okay, we'll start with the speakers.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Would it be all right, could I just make one factual point about this before we hear from speakers?
Sure.
Because I've been reading a lot on social media about this item, and there are a large number of residents in the area who are very concerned that there's a proposal to reopen Matagual. And I just wanted to say I did meet with the developers. I've also met with a number of interested neighbors in the community. And I have verified both with the developer and with our development director, Mr. Conley, and our city manager, Patrick Johnson. There is no proposal that has been made by anyone at this time and is not currently under consideration to open or to change access to Matagual. And that's just something, just as a factual point, I just wanted to make that known. And then I also wanted to let the residents who are here tonight know that I'm very interested in hear what they have to say. I have not made my mind up about this, and listening with an open mind.
Actually, the developer is here. Is he here? Maybe he needs to speak
Correct,
first.
Mayor. The developer is here, and they would like to make a brief presentation of the council as well.
We'll have them first before we have the speakers. Please remember to be courteous, everyone.
Good evening, Mayor Witter and City Council. My name is Mike Ladiwala. I'm the president of Mid-Continent Hospitality. Our company is committed to providing high-quality premier hotel experience to thriving communities. I also have my team of experts here tonight as well to answer any questions you may have. We do this successfully throughout the country by partnering with brands like Hilton, Marriott, and IHG. They are considered premium hotel products and franchise. To deliver optimal results, our team does a thorough dive into market research to determine the viability of new hotel locations. Our team is here today because we see an opportunity to partner with City of Vista. Vista economy is robust with a growing business and tourism industry and a burgeoning craft brewery scene that is hosting weddings and events who all can be benefited. Tonight we are requesting the approval to change the zoning for this site from residential to commercial. As you can see, this property is surrounded by central commercial centers and businesses that a Hilton brand hotel would help to balance. The property was included in the general plan as residential long before Caltrans moved the Freeway 78 intersection about quarter mile east to the present location. This relocation made the adjacent site and a hotel site incompatible for the old half-acre zoning for residential units. Each product type has an award-winning reputation of delivering on their promise of quality and investing in their community. Now, I would like to outline the details of our proposal. We are proposing 150 Hilton brand home to suites and True located on Hacienda Drive near the on-ramp to Vista Village and Highway 78. The Home to Suites brand is designed for an extended stay with unique custom enhancement and plenty of space to call your own. Suite provides a separate living and bedroom space, a kitchen flexible working space, common areas for gathering, complimentary breakfast, and lifestyle-focused amenities customized for each guest experience. The Hilton Home 2 Suites has opened 258 properties, and last year was named the most trusted brand of the year in the extended stay segment. True by Hilton will share the lobby with Home 2 Suites, but offer a different, more affordable hotel accommodation for shorter stays. The True design features your typical hotel room sizes, accommodating doubles, queens, and king beds. The hotel lobby and shared areas are reimagined your average entrance with creative features for fitness, trends, digital check-ins, spaces with areas for work, games, eating, or lounging. Additionally, it is important to note that the property will sit much lower than their neighboring residents and equipped with two significant barriers. Landscaping provide a sound buffer to freeway noise. These enhancements will adapt through the concerns of the community. We recognize our obligation is to prove to you and the community that we belong, and we hope to get that chance. Our design will evolve with more community engagement beyond our current reach, which has included meetings with the South Vista Communities Group, some area residents, and the Vista Chamber of Commerce. With your approval today, we will be able to dive into the details and get started on the necessary environmental review, privacy enhancements, and landscape options, lighting features, and amenities that will complement Vista. We are devoted to staying true to our core values and those of Hilton to maintain strict safety guidelines and add value to Vista community. All Hilton Hotel follows rigorous practice, policies, and procedures to not only maintain but enhance public safety, including their global commitment to human rights. Within the parameters of city guidelines, we want to make this project feel like Vista. The Hilton brand is committed to excellence and will benefit our region for years to come. We look forward to the opportunity of moving forward with the Home 2 Suites and True by Hilton. I would now like to introduce Julian and Selena Sherrill, the owners of the property, who have a long family legacy in Vista. Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name's Julian Shadle. This is my sister, Selena Shadle. We co-own the property with my father, Thomas Shadle. He couldn't be with us today. We're very proud to be here tonight. We value the partnership before you today and share some of our history as fourth-generation Vistans. We've actually been here since the 60s. Not me personally, but my grandfather. And because of this, we think our investment in the community is relevant to what we are proposing today. So we wanted to explain that, a little bit of that. Our family has deep roots, and we love the city. I still live in the city. My children attend Vista Public Schools. I work up Melrose, right up on the end of Melrose. My wife is an RN at a local school for special education and high school kids. They're definitely kids. As you can see, I'm not in any, we're here. We're long-term residents. We've watched the changes occur in Vista over the years and been very pleased, especially lately. It's been absolutely amazing of what the changes that have been done in Vista. And our family has been crucial in a lot of the projects for redevelopment and investments on the Melrose sector for many years. Just wanted to share with some of those, the county court complex, and then also helping Vista attain a Hilton brand level hotel. Our civic involvement is definitely in our bloodline. My grandfather, Milo Shadle, donated his entire interest in Breeze Hill Ranch back before many of you were here, probably. And that is actually the courthouse. He donated it all to the Vista Boys and Girls Club, everything he made off of that development. He also was inducted in the Vista Historical Society Hall of Fame. My father, Tom, who's part owner, was also named Vista Chamber of Man of the Year some time ago. And I don't tell you this to brag or boast by any means. That's not what we're about here. But we want to demonstrate that we're invested into the city. We're not just somebody coming in and trying to pitch something to you. And we'll always will be invested in the city. So with that, I'd like to introduce my sister, Selena.
Thanks, Julian. Hello, Council. Thank you so much for listening to us. I'm Selena Shadle. I'm a Vista native. I hate public speaking, but this means a lot to me, so I wanted to come in and present to you all. I went to Crestview Elementary, Santa Fe Elementary, Lincoln Middle School, Vista High School, which is also where my parents graduated from. And Vista means a great deal to me. I met my best friend on the bus to 9th grade 36 years ago and celebrated my 50th birthday with her this year. So both of our families are still here, and Vista is enormously important to me. I just wanted to say, in short, I love Vista. I truly believe our partnership with Mid-Century Hotel Group will benefit the city. I believe Hilton will be a great presence here for the city. I got married in Vista not long ago, 10 years ago. And I had a lot of people come to the city for that wedding. There was nowhere for them to stay. They had to stay pretty far away from our wedding. I feel like this is a true need in the city that hopefully we can help address. I don't think this is unusual, but from what I understand, we have lost out on other opportunities and seen visitors instead stay in our neighboring cities. This hurts our dining establishments, our city's revenue, and of course our opportunity to showcase our amazing city in a more meaningful way. If you could imagine, perhaps this time next year, as we transition into summer vacation with families coming in for graduation ceremonies, cast members coming in for summer performances at Moonlight Amphitheater, and businesses hosting year-end conferences and being able to offer them accommodations of Vista's own Hilton-branded hotel. I'm aware of the previous proposal and I've seen Mid-Continent Hospitality make substantive changes to the project. As owners of the property, I would like to point out their willingness as the developer to modify the project based on feedback. In fact, they have made changes already, which have included significantly increasing the buffer between the residents to the east and the hotel property, eliminating the retail and amenity, which will cut back on traffic and minimize impacts. And perhaps what's most important is an evident willingness to engage with the community and city staff, and I hope they have the opportunity to do so. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
John?
if I may make one point of clarification, that this is not a hearing for approval of the project. We did receive a number of letters that were referenced approval or denial of a zone change. Since 2015, the staff has brought all requests for general plan amendments and zone change before the council for discussion before we accept any formal application, so that we can get some feedback from the council before we move forward with a full review of the project. That normally takes 6 months to a year. It includes environmental review. There's a lot of money spent on architectural and design studies. And so that's the purpose of tonight's hearing, or tonight's meeting, is to discuss the issue and get some feedback from the council as to whether or not we should move forward with an application. I just wanted to make sure that the audience was aware of that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
May I ask a point of clarification from Mr. Conley?
Sure.
Could you describe the process that will have to proceed? So tonight, just to feed back to what you just gave us, we're here to answer the question about whether we even want to invite this developer to engage with the community in this conversation, and then we would come back in 6 months to a year from now, and we would have a formal public hearing, and we would make a formal decision about whether or not we would approve a general plan amendment and the zone change. Is that accurate?
That's correct. It would go to the Planning Commission first and then come to the council.
So the community would have the opportunity to work with the developer if we decided to move forward tonight through the process. They would have to come before the Planning Commission, receive the approval of the Planning Commission, and then ultimately come to the City Council again and have a formal public hearing, receive comment, and then the council would have to make a final decision about whether to allow the zone change at that time.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, are we ready for the speakers then? Yes. Okay. What we'll do is I'll call off three names, and for one that's speaking, and the other two would line up over here so we can move along. We have quite a few speakers here, big pile. So we'll start. Okay, Rachel Bell, followed by Rachel Rott, followed by Rick Randall.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Rachel Beld. I'm the CEO of the Vista Chamber of Commerce. And while the Vista Chamber has no official position regarding the project, because there isn't an official project yet, we are in general support of the general concept for commercial development at this site. We think that it would be good for the community, the city's tourism industry, and for TOT. I will share that personally I was surprised to hear that this lot is actually zoned for residential uses, considering it's adjacent to the freeway. And I can remember back when I was on city staff, discussions about commercial developments in this lot as far back as 2007 as a concept. So overall, we are supportive of the general idea of a commercial development there. And I do feel as though a hotel is a lower impact commercial use compared to some of the other types of uses that could be considered there. It's also nice to hear that the council has the ability to condition the project based on feedback from the neighbors, and I know the council will utilize that option should you decide to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's Rachel Rott, followed by Rick Randall, followed by Susan Burke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. As a resident of Vista, my purpose in being here tonight is to join with my neighbors to reinforce how important it is that the decisions the council makes about land use prioritize the quality of life of the residents. There's a lot of energy building around the effort to keep 536 Matagual residential. And I hope that the mayor and city council will keep those concerns at the forefront as you consider taking the serious step of amending the city's general plan in order to allow a builder to put up a hotel in a residential neighborhood. The city may only make 4 amendments to the general plan in a year, and we have entrusted to this body the responsibility of doing so with an inclusive vision towards sustainability and a concern for the people that call Vista home. If you look at Municipal Development Ordinance 18.80.10010, you will discover that revising the zoning requires the proponent, in this case the developer, to prove 4 points in order to justify the project. 1, that there is a public necessity. 2, convenience. 3, welfare. And 4, good zoning practice. Our fellow residents of Vista will be speaking tonight in greater detail about the proposed revision of the general plan. We believe that the proposed hotel project does not meet the requirement of any of those 4 points. Madam Mayor, council members, I strongly urge you to hear the important information and perspectives that will be presented to you tonight and commit to keep 536 Matagual residential. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Randall, followed by Susan Burke, followed by Gary Lukovich.
Mayor, council members. My name is Rick Randall. I live at 636 Valeview Drive here in Vista, and I am against the proposed zone change to 536 Matagual from residential E1 to C2. I've been a resident of Vista for over 50 years and have seen what I call commercial creep has done to existing residential neighborhoods. I have watched as existing residential areas were rezoned commercial property by property until the whole area was changed. The proposal of a hotel at 536 Matagual is just such an example. I understand the city desires 2 more hotels, but this has not been proven to be a necessity. Since this is just a desire, there is no valid reason to change the zoning at 536 Matagual to accommodate this. There are several other locations along the 78 that are already zoned commercial with infrastructure to handle a hotel and its traffic. In addition, what about the residential properties surrounding the hotel? The properties will most likely lose value for a number of reasons, thus negatively affecting the lives of Vista residents who the council was elected to represent. The rezoning and placement of a hotel at this location is not smart growth and would adversely affect a long-established quality neighborhood. Please keep this area zoned for residential only. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Burke, followed by Gary Lukovich, followed by Chris Arvanitas.
Mayor and council members, my name is Susan Burke, and I reside at 515 Valeview Drive. After 16 years of extremely cramped living in Carlsbad, my husband and I moved to our neighborhood in 2009. I'm thankful every day that we live in this beautiful area, and I'm proud to call myself a Vistan, especially after seeing the support earlier. Regarding the convenience factor, just because a hotel is close to a freeway does not make it convenient for guests nor Vistans. I drive these on and off ramps almost every day, and the backed up traffic makes this location quite inconvenient for commuters and residents both. As a result, drivers looking for shortcuts routinely traverse Valeview and speed along and past the many beautiful houses on Hacienda that, yes, overlook the 78. I'm afraid that this inconvenience could quickly turn deadly as it did on Matagual, and I do not want Valeview Drive to become another Matagual. I'm not against hotels. I am merely against a hotel on this quiet residential street. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Lukovich, followed by Chris Arvanitas, followed by Kathleen Moscato.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, staff, and fellow residents of Vista. Like I said, my name is Gary Lukovich. I live at 656 Matagual. We saw a map earlier of an overview of the area. It gives you no idea the character of this community. I invite every one of you to walk those streets late in the day, early in the morning with a lot of other neighbors and see what it's like and see what makes that area very unique. I've lived there in the same location for over 33 years. I hope to live there the rest of my life. And there's a lot of other people on that street that have lived there a lot longer than I have. A lot longer. There's generations that grow up on that street. There's a reason they want to stay there. It's because it's very unique and very beautiful. It's a very long street, a lot of beautiful trees, no sidewalks, no street lights. We're happy with that. People have kids can play in the streets. You don't have to worry about speeding traffic on our street. The residents look out for one another. It's a lot of pets, cats, dogs. It's also animals, both wild and domestic. You can see everything. I've seen raccoons and hawks and owls and everything. It is country when you walk through there. And so I think it's very important that when you consider that, these people are very vested in their community. They love it. They're willing to go to whatever they have to do to try and protect it, legally or otherwise. But At the far end of this street, the proposal dramatically changes it. It goes from being very low density, very vested people, to very high density, extremely high density, and people with no vested interest in that particular area. I think that invites a lot of possible problems. We know when the circus shows up, as it does or has in the past once a year, it's very close to the same area. And for several nights, over the 1 or 2 weekends it's there, we have all the problems, probably 95% of the problems that ever occur on Madrigal Drive occur at that time.
Your time is up, sir. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris R. Benitez, followed by Kathleen Moscato, followed by Kathy Melendez.
Madam Mayor, distinguished members of the council, my name is Chris Arvanitis. I have been a resident and property owner at Valview Drive for nearly 43 years. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight on this matter. In the many years that I lived in this neighborhood, I've witnessed numerous changes regarding growth and encroachment of commercial properties into our residential area. Now we're seeing even the lot at Vista Village and Hacienda is to be developed into commercial space there as well. While most of these changes are positive and move our city forward very progressively, there is growing concern that the commercial use of land is expanding too far into our residential areas. Now, I'm not opposed to Vista adding any more hotels. Quite the contrary. I believe that this city needs more quality lodging options. It creates jobs. It creates services, revenue for our local businesses, and tax dollars as well. The city's general plan mentions Vista is a well-established community that values a strong sense of identity, diverse neighborhoods, and semi-rural character, and land use is one of the most important factors affecting the future of Vista. I think we can all agree with this statement. The Madrigal and Valeview neighborhoods have been there long before the Highway 78 corridor was even conceived. We are the very definition of a diverse neighborhood, and the addition of a large hotel within this area is not in keeping with its semi-rural residential character. I believe that zoning is a contract between the city and its residents. It is the commitment of the city to preserve the quality of our neighborhood and protect it from projects or land use that is inconsistent with the attributes and values of our neighborhood and the city as a whole. Land is zoned for a purpose, to separate certain uses.
Your time is up, sir.
Very good. I hope that you will consider this, all the factors from all sides before you make a decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Kathleen Moscato, followed by Kathy Melendez, followed by Lisa De Jesus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Kathleen Moscato, and my husband Anthony and I have lived in Vista, just a half a mile from 536 Madrigal Drive, since May of 1997. We made the choice to move from San Diego because of the semi-rural feel of the neighborhood and the fact that we could buy a piece of property with a little bit of space around it. I walk these streets every day. After living in a noisy, traffic-filled neighborhood for years, we loved the quiet, sleepy feeling where not everyone was living on top of one another. You are considering changing the estate residential E1 zoning of 536 Madrigal Drive, a residential home, to a commercial zoning to allow for development of a 150-room hotel. I strongly urge you to not go any further with this. This area is zoned residential for a reason. You ask any of my neighbors, this area cannot take the traffic of 150 more people and cars on its roads around it, the noise of 150 more people, the chaos of 150 and more special events. We love our neighborhood, and building a hotel would ruin so much about it. I understand the city's desire for increased revenue. I am thrilled with so much of what has happened downtown since our move here 22 years ago. As many people have said, I am not anti-hotel. I actually lived in hotels for 3 years in my childhood. I have a soft, warm place in my heart for them, but I am just anti-hotel on this site. This site has been zoned for residential for decades. Please don't change that now. If you look at the pages 12 and 13 from your staff report from Deborah Schroeder, in her letter to you all, she listed over 20 sites that are zoned C2, C3, and OP that would be better suited for a hotel than in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Melendez, followed by Lisa Day Jesus, followed by David Greenspan.
Hi, my name is Katie Melendez, and I am here as a Vista native to share some strengths that I see in our city and to urge you to consider the testimony that you've heard tonight. We are of the understanding that the developer is pursuing a zone change on this property with the hopes of building a hotel. And I want to share how this zone change won't improve the quality of life for Vista residents. I hope that you will choose to listen and collaborate with residents as you have with other projects, because all of the great changes and projects that have been brought forward by the City Council have been brought forward through collaboration with residents. A hotel at this site is short-sighted, and there are two things missing in this proposal: attractions and infrastructure. Vista is a wonderful city with a vibrant community and enjoyable activities for people of all ages, but Vista itself is far from a tourist city. I chose to stay here and where I grew up, and many have chosen to move here because of our rural roots, not our resorts. We have few tourist guests in our current accommodations, and if we do manage to fill those rooms, our roads and infrastructure will be stressed. At a previous council meeting, Madam Mayor, you claimed that investing in public transit is not practical here in Vista because Vista does not have the density to foster ridership. So please keep in mind that when developing along the 78 without considering transit solutions, it will leave residents more frustrated with traffic than they are now. The attractions and infrastructure in Vista need to be considered before rezoning with the intention of hotel development. Secondly, a hotel at this site is not what the neighbors need. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lisa Day Jesus, followed by David Greenspan, followed by Jaden Sterling Randall.
Thank you again. I'm here tonight to speak against this and hope that you will vote to turn it down for several reasons. I'm not a Vista native, but I'm a San Diego County native. I grew up in Del Mar when there was nothing east of I-5 before North County West. I raised my kids, the Lesbian and my son, in La Mesa, very conservative town, went to college and watched La Mesa grow. I was even appointed by the city council there as a planning commissioner. I remember applying to be a planning commissioner here. Mr. Franklin, Mayor Ritter had said to me, how would I handle a disputed zoning situation? Maybe they were talking about this, I don't know. But I want to say a couple of things, and it's not as passionate about the neighbors that live there, but it's about the danger of changing a general plan zoning designation. Not only is it dangerous to change that, it's also dangerous to entertain the thought of a special permit. So you're asking, these developers are asking that you change the zoning or entertain the thought and also give them a special permit to increase the height above what that even allows. So you've got one thing on top of another, and it's ridiculous. If you really are interested in smart growth, or if the developer's interested in doing the right thing, they can approach a strip center, ask them to buy that land, and then they can change it and ask you to change the zoning to put a hotel there. That's an option. The other option is you can overlay that zone as it exists today as a residential area, and you can put in a mixed-use zone. And maybe those residents would be more open to that, where you have a little bit of retail and a little bit of living, so that people can actually have a place to live and buy. So you won't have your tot tax, but you will have sales tax revenue, and we all know that we subsist on sales tax revenue. Thank you. Please, please do not let this go through. Thank you.
Thank you. David Greenspan, followed by Jaden Sterling Randall, followed by Lana Leghart.
Mayor Ritter and members of the City Council. I'm a resident and a business owner in Vista. In the Vista General Plan, there are 14 land use and community identity goals. In addition to Lucy Goal number 1, which says specifically, preserve and enhance Vista's identity and image. Lucy Goal number 2 to preserve and enhance the characteristics and features of neighborhoods that share common development patterns, topography, major streets, and zoning patterns. Lucy goal number 3, preserve and protect existing residential neighborhoods from actions, activities, or land uses that may have an adverse impact upon the enjoyment of the residential living environment. This City Council unanimously voted to create and support this general plan in 2012. Perhaps not the members here, but your predecessors, and specifically pledged to the people of Vista that continuity of character, protection of existing neighborhoods, and preservation of neighborhoods that share common development patterns would be the blueprint for all land use decisions, especially zoning. The residents of Valeview and Madrigal share this common identity. To rezone a core part of the neighborhood from residential to commercial is a violation of at least 7 Lucy goals of your Vision 2030. Right down to goal number 14, which reads to update the city's zoning code and other standards and/or guidelines regulating land use to implement the goals and policies of the land use and community identity element, changing the zone of this piece of land from residential to commercial runs counter to this goal. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
I urge you not to accept this application.
Jaden Sterling Randall, followed by Lana Leghart, followed by August Slivnik.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Jaden Sterling Randall, and I live at 636 Valeview Drive. I am adamantly opposed to the rezoning of 536 Madrigal Drive. This is a residential lot in a residential neighborhood that is currently zoned E1. In the City of Vista General Plan, Lucy Goal 3, it states, protect existing residential neighborhoods from actions, activities, or land uses that may have an adverse impact upon the enjoyment of residential living environment. A rezoning of this lot will adversely affect the residential living of the residents of Hacienda Drive, Valeview Drive, Hidden Vale, Hampton Court, Hidden Sky, Las Palmas Drive, Crestview, Corona Court, Hideaway Terrace, and Venus View. City staff sought out this location for a hotel, and we would like to see a study that shows that a hotel is needed in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is not near the downtown, and it is not near the business park, the two logical places for hotels, because Vista is not a tourist destination. It is a pass-through on your way to work town. It is along the 78 corridor. However, there are several other locations along the corridor that are already zoned commercial and are not in a residential neighborhood. South Santa Fe is undergoing revitalization to remove blight and improve the path to the downtown. A hotel along the redevelopment path would be more logical as the area is zoned commercial and it is a pathway to the downtown. Currently, there is a petition going around town with over 230 signatures at this time in opposition to this proposed zone change. The residents signing it are from all 4 districts. Letters have been written in opposition to the proposed zone change. There are people here tonight speaking out against rezoning. Your constituents are speaking. Please listen. Thank you.
Lana Leghart, followed by August Slivnik, followed by Ruben Leon.
Madam Mayor, council members, and staff, thank you for having us all this evening. My name is Lana Leghart. I'm a 7-year resident of Vista and a graduate of the Leadership Ambassador Program. We've heard tonight the 4 elements that are required to consider a zone change. We've heard about Lucy Goal number 3, which specifically speaks to this issue, and we've also heard the other Lucy goals relate. We've heard about the petition that has been circulating. We've heard about a need for a hotel, and let me reiterate that we are not anti-hotel. We are anti-hotel on this site. Before you are 20 out of 21 letters that were sent in opposition to item D1. You also received 1 phone call in opposition to D1. A reminder that this support comes outside, the support for D1 comes outside, from outside of our neighborhood. No one from inside of our neighborhood has expressed interest in a hotel on this land. What we haven't heard is evidence to justify changing the Constitution of Vista, which took a great deal of time and investment for you all to create. We also have not heard that there is a crisis for money that would be generated by the transient occupancy task. You all have been fiscally responsible, and we have some buffer in our budget, so there is not a crisis or an urgent need. Therefore, I respectfully ask you to please vote against moving forward with a hotel on this residential site. However, if the council votes to move forward because you are interested in learning more, I also respectfully ask that you keep an open mind and that you keep the residents involved in the process so that we may move forward together. Thank you.
August Slivnik, followed by, it looks like Ruben Leon, followed by Olivia Bruley.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Evening.
Got to come wrong. I've been on that street for 45 years and have gone through quite a few discussions with city councils, especially in regards to the Food for Less, i.e. Smith's Market that used to be there, and the promises that were made for that and the promises that were broken for that. I'm not saying for or against. I obviously am against this proposal because we don't need a hotel there. Something's going to eventually be put there, but if it's a residential zone, keep it residential. How about some housing that could benefit everybody? I've mentioned in the past about having the parks. That got shot down. Turn this into a park for everybody. I mean, my gosh, we need parks. How many parks do we have in the city of Vista that are used? Every park is used, obviously, but we don't have any on that side other than a little parkette. So please vote no on this and go a different route. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ruben, followed by Olivia Bruley, followed by Rick Bruley.
I'm Ruben Leon. We're at 505 Valeview, which is right around the corner from 536 Montagual. My wife and I raised 4 kids we're kind of newcomers. We only moved here in 1978. And all of our kids, played on that street, along with all the other kids. My suggestion, oh, by the way, the last time I did this was when the gate went up at Montagual, because some of us got together and we proposed to people who had your job, the traffic. Everybody's going to race down Montagual to miss that mess. And that was 25 years ago or so. I don't recall exactly. If you put a hotel in there, you are going to end traffic at that intersection. We all drive it. I mean, it takes 30 minutes to go from one end of Melrose to the freeway and then another 30 minutes going the other way. So my suggestion is vote no on this tonight, because sorry for the staff, there are lots better choices. A church would be fine there. We've got a church right around the corner. There are lots of things that could go in there. Not a 4-story hotel. How many 4-story buildings are there in Vista? And you're going to stick it in a residential area where it's just not right. So thank you for your time. I didn't really mean to speak tonight. This is kind of impromptu, but I've had good experience with everybody that I've ever worked with that do your job. Everybody has always been very considerate, and they've been, I didn't really think they were going to put that gate up. I really didn't. But, push this to the side, tell the staff, go back to work, and find something the residents like. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rick Bruley, followed by Chip Stratman. Wait, did I miss? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you, didn't I? Olivia, go. It's your turn. Thank you.
So I've lived on 602 Valeview Drive since 2003, 2004. I was in first grade. I went to Crestview Elementary, Madison, RBV, the little dirt road that runs through that piece of strip. All growing up during summer, I used to ride my bike on the dirt road that is depending on what you guys do, depends on if I want to have my children stay in my home. I don't want to worry about, I've already had, when I was younger, a dog get hit because Crestview turned into the adult school and people raced through our street. I can't go roller skating on my street because cars go too fast. I can't, no one's going to feel comfortable walking their dogs anymore because everyone's going to be driving through. It's going to take away what makes our street and our community our community. Everyone speaking is not just my neighbors. We're close-knit. We're all like a family. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. Rick Brule, followed by Chip Stratman, followed by Nancy. Is it Oshu?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rick Brule. I live at 602 Vailview Drive. And that was my daughter. I'm a native San Diegan, and I have seen lots of changes. I'm also the used car manager at North County Ford, and I'm pro-business. But I'm a homeowner, and I purchased this house 17 years ago because of what it is and the community. And I've seen the growth, positive and some negative. Rezoning this property is a really big mistake. I'm a numbers guy. That's what I do for a living. 150 rooms. How many cars do you need for 150 rooms? How many people for 150 rooms? Where does that make any sense in a residential area that's got tree-lined streets, no sidewalks, no streetlights, quiet, quaint, artsy, creative, amazing people in that area, very diverse. I came here because of that, and I'm a San Diego native. My daughter and I live there because of that. So I urge you to look hard at this because it does go against what I found out tonight is what your policy of doing business as a city council to do what's best for the people. Well, putting a hotel there is not what's best for the residents, and there is other places to put a hotel or a motel. I do see the growth problems with the city of Vista. I do see an infrastructure problem already. I also see a traffic problem. I drive 1.5 miles to work. I can walk there faster, folks. Do the math. Put a hotel at the bottom. What do you think that's going to be like? It's going to be a nightmare. Now, there's already going to be a car wash and other things down the hill. That's a commercial area. That makes sense. It's going to be there. It was going to be part of a Honda franchise. I already know about that because part of an auto group.
Your time is up, sir.
Okay. Have a great night, folks.
Chip Stratman, followed by Nancy Oshie, followed by Rob Thompson.
Mayor Ritter, council members. I'm Chip Stratman. I live at 607 Madigal. That was the house in the lower corner of this aerial photo. I'd like to say we lived here 30 years. We've been here just over a year, but we got to Madigal as quick as we could. We're delighted with our home, with our street, our neighbors, and our neighborhood. I cannot imagine a 4-story hotel looming over the north end of Madigal. One of the reasons that we moved here was to move out of a neighborhood where houses up on the high ground above us loomed over our house and looked down into our backyard. 4-story hotel will be looking down into the backyard of numerous residents that live at Madigal and Vailview. While I don't have a problem with hotels, I can think of several sites that would be great right along 78, just not this one. Rezoning a lot that it's been residential for 30 plus years, it just strikes me as spot rezoning and replatting that lot for multiple houses, 1/4 acre lots, seems like a much better alternative. So please do not favorably consider this proposal and keep this residential lot residential. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nancy Oshie, followed by Rob Thompson.
Evening, Mayor and council members, staff. Thank you for allowing so many of us up here to speak tonight about this proposal. While I understand that what is being decided tonight is only one step to continue in the process of looking at whether or not you put a hotel in this residential area, and I, for one, I don't see the sense in putting something like a 150-bed hotel that's going to attract at full capacity 150 families without there being any sort of mobility hub nearby. A hotel, it only makes sense to be close to a Sprinter station at least, that's within walking distance. So I'm opposed to that because of the fact that there's no public transportation that would actually help visitors to get to that spot. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Thompson, is Rob here?
Hello, my name is Rob. I recently bought the house at 1123 Bayview Drive. 100% sure I would not have bought that in April if I would have known this project was a possibility. I used to live in Breeze Hill. I lived there for 15 years. I love that area over there. The reason I wanted to move across the street is because I like the neighborhood I live in now better, and I always used to ride my bike over there and stuff. And I said, one day I'm going to buy a house over here, and I found this house and I bought it. And you know, we have to face traffic on the freeway and on Melrose, and the last thing I want to do is face traffic when I'm about ready to go home and relax for the day. You know, I've been working all day long, and now I've got to sit at a traffic light, another light, and then there's people that I don't know who they are, and this and that. And the only reason I'm going to speak today is because I want to tell a story. A couple weeks ago, my son was riding his scooter, and I live at the top of Hacienda, and he was out in the street, and he had to bail out into the ditch because a car was racing around there, and nearly was hit by that car. Those streets will not support extra traffic. I mean, there's no way. And so just for the safety and convenience of the people that live there, I would highly suggest that a hotel is not the right thing to have there. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our speakers for the evening. So I will turn it over to our council, and I have several council members that would like to speak. So we'll start with Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to first say thank you to everybody who has come out tonight to speak to us, to hear your voices, to hear your passion for your community. I appreciate that very, very much. It's always welcome. I also want to say I appreciate the Shadle family and your contributions to our community over the years very much as well. In some of the speakers and in some of the community conversation, it's obvious that there was going to be some opposition to this project. And somebody made a comment about, well, if you don't want a hotel at this site, what do you want at this site? And I thought about that for a minute. And I thought, well, that answer can be found in this really amazing document that we have that guides our city. We call it the General Plan. General Plan, Vista General Plan 2030. We're still at 2019. 2012, we spent a lot of time and energy having community meetings, having council meetings, having discussions with our community about what is our collective vision for our city. What is the collective vision for each part of our city, for our neighborhoods, for our corridors? We took a lot of time and energy to grapple with those questions, to go back and forth with each other on those questions, and to come up with a final document that we approved that would be the guiding light for the vision that we have for Vista going forward to 2030. I do not take a general plan amendment lightly, given the history that we have with this document and what this document means to us as a community and to me as your councilwoman. And several people here have read this. It's obvious from your comments. And not only did we hear from speakers tonight, but we also got a lot of letters, one phone call, So I'm not going to read everything that you all read, but I do want to read part of the general plan, so bear with me. The area that we're talking about here is zoned low density. Low density residential is the largest residential land use designation and includes low density, large lot, single family residential development to enhance the semi-rural residential character of our community. Urban agricultural uses are allowed to promote local food production subject to conditions in the zoning code. Non-habitable structures ancillary to the support of the agricultural or animal husbandry uses are allowed where permitted under zoning regulations to minimum acreage limitations. The zoning districts that are considered consistent with the low-density designation are specific plan implementation, open space, planned residential development, agricultural, estate, E1, and mobile home park, although the mobile home park must have existed prior to 1980. The low-density residential designation permits densities up to 2.0 dwelling units per gross acre. And then the next category up in our general plan is medium low density. The medium low density residential land use designation includes medium low density single family residential development and accounts for much of the older single family development within our community. The zoning districts for medium low density that are considered consistent with the medium low density designation are specific plan implementation, open space, planned residential development, E1, R1 residential, and again, mobile home parks that existed prior to 1980. The next category up is medium density residential. Single-family detached structures to provide for smaller lots closer to the urban core. Duplexes and townhomes are permitted in certain circumstances. Multifamily residential development may be appropriate in certain locations, such as along transit corridors and or to protect natural topographic and environmental features. The next category is medium high density. Those zoning districts would be specific plan implementation, open space, planned residential development, R1B residential, multi-residential, and the mobile home parks. The next one you get to is high density residential. And then you get to commercial. General commercial office, commercial neighborhood, and then we get to where they want to change it to now, which is general commercial. So from where we started off in our general plan with low density, you have to go through low density, through medium low density, through medium density, through medium high density, commercial office, commercial neighborhood, and then you get to general commercial. That is quite the discourse from where we are to where it's proposed we go in amending our general plan for this proposed project. That's a big difference in that. And when we look at a development of any kind in our community, one of the things that I always ask is, what does this development do for my community? How is it going to enhance this neighborhood? Anything that we do to our community needs to enhance it for our Vistans, for our citizens, for our neighbors. If we are not going to enhance our community, then we are having a negative impact on our community, and that should not be allowed. That's always a question. And with this development, putting a hotel here, to me, that is not enhancing this neighborhood. That is negatively impacting this neighborhood. This can be a negative impact with such great, with such great impact that this neighborhood might never recover from it. And that would be very, very sad to do. And I understand that one of my council colleagues had asked, what would the transient occupancy tax be for a hotel in this location, gauging roughly? My understanding was that the answer to that was between $400,000 and $600,000 per year. But I submit that there is no amount of money into the city coffers that would be worth sacrificing quality of life and peace of mind on that altar of money. We would like, would we like to see another hotel? Thank you, though. Would we like to see another hotel in our community? Sure, absolutely. Vista is growing. We might have a need for it. We have the Hyatt, we have the Marriott. Pretty soon, the Ayers is going to be opening. It's under construction. I'm very excited for that one as well. And I do hope that we do end up with a Hilton-branded hotel in our community. I think we would love to have Hilton in Vista, but not here. This is not the right site for this. Not when you're having to travel up 5, was it? Different levels through our general plan to get there. I'm asking that we learn from our past mistakes that we have made in Vista. Previous councils have made some pretty big blunders. Look at Avalon, look at Breeze Hill. We don't need to make that same mistake again, where we take something that is not right for a neighborhood and insert it in there anyway. Take this square peg and put it into this round hole and just keep slamming it until it goes in. That is not what we want for our city in any area of our community, and certainly not in a residential neighborhood. There's a reason that it is zoned the way it is, that it's marked in the general plan the way it is, and I think it's important that we respect the people of Vista and that we keep the promises that we made to them when they bought their homes in this community. When you decided to plant your roots and raise your family in this neighborhood, on this street, this quiet street with no street lights, with no sidewalks. Bless you. I know in my neighborhood I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't be happy. But somebody was talking about 150 rooms. How many people is that going to be? I was traveling not long ago and I was staying in a hotel, and I saw so many people wandering around the grounds of the hotel with their dogs. And I just thought, do you want a bunch of strangers walking their dogs down your sidewalkless and street lightless streets? I know I wouldn't. That would just really annoy me. That was just something I thought about. It came to mind when somebody was speaking. So that's just another thing to think about. But also somebody said, oh, we can't keep it residential because, homes next to the freeway. Nobody wants a home next to the freeway. Have you looked along the freeway? There are homes both sides of the freeway, not just along the 78 and not just close to this area along the 78, but on almost every freeway that you ever drive down. So that's a non-starter argument for me. Don't tell me that we don't want homes next to the freeway because I'm not going to listen to that. That's white noise. Also, Mrs. Oshley, I don't know where you went, but you made a good point about the mobility hub. And when I met with Lana, and I did meet with the developer, and they talked about one half of this hotel would be really marketed to millennials. Where's the mobility hub for the millennials who aren't driving? And where's that last mile, first mile going to come in for them? So there was a bit of a disconnect for me on that one. Hadn't been thought all the way through. So I am adamantly opposed to this application. I have no interest to see this application go forward. In addition to all of the reasons that I have set forth for my opposition to this application, and hearing what all of you have said, absolutely agree 100%. But we also talk about the flavor of our community and the flavor of the neighborhood and something that has to enhance the neighborhood. A hotel here isn't it on any level, in any iteration. That is not what should be on that site. Particularly looking at the designs that you have provided for us, those designs in no way at all fit into that neighborhood. They are not elegant. They don't meet the community standards of that neighborhood. There would have to be, in my opinion, a completely redraw of those designs. Just that they don't fit in at all. So I would like to see us go by our general plan that we put so much time and energy into, that we keep our promises to the neighbors, to our neighbors, my neighbors, your neighbors, to this neighborhood, and to the families there who have raised their kids there, that just moved in to raise their kids there. Keep the promises of what they bought into, and I will not be supportive of this application going forward.
Do we need a 5-minute break? No, but okay. Please show respect, because maybe everybody won't agree with that. You have to show respect no matter what's set up here. We showed your respect to you. We didn't do that, so if you could show respect to all of us, we'd appreciate it. Okay, Deputy Mayor Franklin.
I just want to thank everybody who came to speak tonight. We really do appreciate your input, and we really are very concerned about moving forward in a way that we have a consensus with the community. I do think it is an important question, Councilwoman Rigby, you raised it. What are the other potential uses of this parcel? And I'd be interested to hear from staff and perhaps also from the Shadles. I know that they have their realtor with them. I'd like to hear about the history, how long this land has been for sale, what proposed uses, and more important, if we don't invite you to make an application for a hotel, what are the other potential uses? And I know there's a grade issue on the land. What kind of a challenge does that make for investment in residential dwellings there? What are the unique challenges of this parcel, and what might that mean for the future of the development of it?
So I can only speak to what we've had submitted on this parcel. In the 20 years that I've been here, we've had one application. It was for a church back in the early 2000s, which was withdrawn as a result of the economy going south in around 2008 or 9, and we haven't had any applications since then.
Is there any other history of the development that the Shadles want to speak to, or is that... Okay. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. I want to hear the rest of the conversation.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you, community, for coming. I think it's always great to see a lot of people that don't necessarily ever talk to each other come together and bring forth their grievances. I know that I'm happy to hear from you, and the council as a body is happy whenever we get communication directly from our residents. So thank you so much for being here. I think a lot of what Councilmember Rigby said was really spot on. I want to ask staff a particular question, because I've heard this prior to being on the council a lot, where individuals are just saying, you know what, this is just to accept an application. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. But my question for staff is, how many times has the council, one, accepted an application for a proposed general plan amendment and zone change, and two, the proposed change later is not manifested I would like to see if there's an answer to that.
So with regard to the number that have come before the council, we've only been doing this since 2015. So there have been about 7 that have come before the council in that time. Actually, I should rephrase. There have been 9. 7 of them have been accepted and 2 have been rejected.
Okay. So overwhelmingly, they tend to go through. So I just have a real problem with going from residential to commercial here. The road is a great delineation between the commercial that exists, the zoning that exists, and the residential. And as was stated before, it doesn't hold too much weight, the argument that, then we're not going to be able to build anything there. Who's going to want to build a house there? When looking at all the homes right around it that are in the same predicament, right? And it's a nice semi-rural type of feel, very reminiscent of how Vista was before. I'm a lifelong resident, and so I've seen a lot of these changes over the 31 years of my life, and I just don't think that I couldn't in good conscience go forward with a hotel there, especially a hotel that really reminds me a lot of the county courthouse. So I just, the aesthetics are just way off. It doesn't fit. It really does not fit. And if we want to, in the future, have a larger community conversation about changing the general plan, then, that's when we should have that type of conversation. It just doesn't make sense to me to put the proposed hotel in the site. When we're talking about quality of life, we've seen so much change in Vista, and as it has been stated, some of those changes have been really good, but some of them have really changed the character of these particular neighborhoods, and we've just seen it, come forward to the council way too much. My fear is that if we say yes to this application, it's going to be, history shows us that it's probably going to move through. So I don't even want to go down that course. A hotel somewhere else, someone proposed downtown. That would be awesome. You could just be in a hotel and walk around and go to the, whatever festival we have going on. For those of you who went to LA Art Festival, by the way, it was awesome. And the hip hop concert at the Avo was amazing. I just had to plug that in. So I'm just not in favor of accepting an application because I know what will happen. And I don't want to go down that route. Our city deserves a cohesive community collaboration, and that's what we're seeing here with so many people coming and expressing how they feel about this project. So again, thank you so much to the community. I hope that this isn't the first and last time that you come. Please continue to come to council. There's so many important decisions that happen here, and we love to hear directly from our residents. So thank you so much, and I just can't accept this. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
Ooh, left the microphone on. Hot microphone. First of all, thank you guys all for showing up. Thank you guys all for speaking. We ask you to show up because your opinion does matter. And hearing the overwhelming people who spoke tonight, I really appreciate you taking the time out of Taco Tuesday to come to a city council meeting. It's a really big deal. So anyway, thank you for that. Some things that I learned, I had to re-review our general plan and Lucy and all that good stuff. So Lana, good job rallying your troops, getting the information. 4 things that stuck out to me as public necessity, convenience, welfare, and good zoning practice, and that it's not my job to determine whether your project meets all 4 of those as much as it's your job to present that to my community. I quite frankly don't feel like this project is a really bad project, but I really feel like if I greenlight this project before I mitigate the traffic of the project nobody's talking about, 5 drive-throughs right on your corner, it's not good news for you. That particular project on the corner, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're estimating like 10,000 trips per day through that through that property once there's 5 drive-throughs there. Is that correct?
There is an EIR being prepared for that project.
Oh, we don't have the actual. Anyways, speculating. The other thing is, and if you could pull up this slide right here, I don't know where this slide is on your presentation right here, but this Hacienda Madrigal GPA ZC discussion item. So this is where my big problem is with the project, and it's not so much your project as it is the other project, and the other project won't come to me as a council. It could just fly right through the Planning Commission unless it's appealed. And I know that your district representative will probably be asking some questions about it. But that project actually, if you look at where the parcel map is right there, the exit, there's a secondary exit to that project that dumps right onto Hacienda Drive right there. And if you have 5 drive-throughs there, I've lived in Vista my whole life too. You drive Hacienda, it turns into Vale Terrace, and it slowly approaches the crappiest intersection in Vista over there at Crestview and Vale View, and it's not going to make it any better. And say it's 10,000 trips and only 10% of them go out that back exit. That's an extra 1,000 cars. It's a lot more than the 150 you're worried about for this hotel right here. Prior to me moving forward with a development like this, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered for me with the other development, such as how are we going to mitigate that traffic? What are we going to be able to do? Are we going to be able to slow it down? I don't need your son, Mr. Thompson, jumping into another ditch because I'm sending 1,000 cars up and down that road. I'm not a huge fan of the way that it looks, but quite frankly, the way that it looks isn't the biggest problem that I have. It's the traffic that I'm going to be putting in your community over there because of the other development. So before I even consider this project, I really feel like we need to have some traffic mitigation done on the other project. I would love for this hotel to move over to the drive-through. Let's do 2 drive-throughs in a hotel. Yes. I don't think that's going to happen, but one thing I definitely need to make sure of is that I'm at that Planning Commission meeting when this Sun Road property is talked about, when those drive-throughs are talked about, when that EIR is done, when those trips are taken into consideration. And before I dump more onto your little community right there, you think Circus Vargas gave you some traffic. Wait till you have a Chick-fil-A and whatever else could possibly be in that little area over there. So I would really like to be responsible with my growth and get the information on the other project prior to moving forward with this project. Now, it's not saying that I'm denying your project by any means. It's just saying if I'm really going to be smart with my growth in my city, I need to make sure I have all the facts before I put more congestion in that neck of the woods there. And I have driven that scope, and it actually is a very unique residential kind of commercial area. I think we can agree, right? When you go past that lot, there's a church right up the way there. So it is semi-conducive of a hotel. But at the same token, you can't just throw that in there. We can't just rubber stamp it without knowing the impact that the other development is going to have on it. So until I have all of that information, unfortunately, I don't think this is something that I can move forward with. I'd really like to have all the information on the traffic impacts. I'd actually like to see if we're going to put a hotel here. I think that exit from that 5 drive-through development should be closed off and gated as a fire exit so that we can mitigate the traffic coming onto this. And I know that's not even a conversation because nobody's really, complaining to that developer so much because it's within our general plan per se. So that's my biggest problem with it. Not so much that it's a hotel, it's just that I can't in good conscience give it the green light right now until I've taken care of the other monster that is before me. And, people, the road, the traffic issues. So that's my big thing. I need it to be safe for my community. Can we use a hotel? Heck yeah. There are a lot of other locations too. So if you find a better one, that's great. But if this is the actual location, We need to make sure that this location is going to be safe for the community and that we've done all of our research, dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's. So I hadn't had my mind made up until I came here tonight. I wasn't really sure. And after doing a lot of review and listening to everybody speak, I think the most responsible thing for me to do as a council person is say, pump your brakes for now. Let's figure out what the impact's going to be on the community, and then we'll go from there. That's all I got.
Deputy Mayor.
I also went out and spent some time at the site, and and I also got into some real depth with staff about roof lines and how many properties were affected with somebody looking down into their property, and there are some real concerns. I'm concerned that there aren't any residents here to champion this, to say we're the neighbors and we want this, and I think that's always a good place to start. So I think. What I would say is, obviously, I believe you have the right to the best and highest use of your land, but this is the community of interest, and what I would say is go back to the community of interest and work with them to come forward with something that has some support. We want to help you develop this parcel into something that is harmonious with the neighbors, and we also want to protect the interests of the neighbors and make sure that they have the right to quietly enjoy their property. So appreciate all of you being here to engage in the discussion. That's what this is all about. So thank you.
Okay, that is the end of all our speakers. And so do you have enough direction? You guys can count, right? When you say, so that's, yeah, so you're good. So
to clarify, Mayor, we will not be accepting the application. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. With that, we're going to move on to our next thing, our CIP. Okay, you guys, listen, we still have to carry on our meeting, so could you maybe go on the lobby and talk? Would that be okay? So we can finish our meeting and go home tonight?
Madam Mayor, do you think we could take a 3-minute break?
You want to take a break?
That'd be all right with you?
Okay. 5-minute break. You're welcome. Hi, I haven't seen you forever. I was like, whoa. I'm doing fine. You just go to church? Oh, really? Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. But being as all, it didn't matter. I could say something, but they're talking. If nobody said anything, then I would have talked. No, they didn't want to vote. Direct staff. He went to direct staff and so when he sees four people, it's like five, make it 5. I think it's going to go from what Joe said. Yeah, what he said, he wants to wait until, because that's my big thing is, right next door to this hotel is 5 drive-through restaurants. So who's going to build houses next to 5 drive-through restaurants? The zoning right now, what it is, it's E1, and so it's not only is it on the freeway, it's next to 5 drive-through restaurants. So the price of building housing is so expensive that So that was my thing. My only thing was, I thought a hotel, and not necessarily that, or something else would make a buffer for your neighborhood. So more of a quiet use would make a buffer from, because that's going to be busy people, I mean, eating and parking and trash and, yeah, so.
Is there enough footprint to build 2 stories of hotel and get 150 on top of the Sunroad development?
Thank you, John. If everybody could get in their seats, can we call our meeting back to order? Joe, I don't have. Where's? Okay, we're going to call our meeting back to order. And our next discussion item is CIP 8296, Palo Vista Park Design. Our Assistant City Manager, Ali Zimmerman, is going to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. With me this evening is Tony Winnie, our Assistant to the City Manager and the Project Manager for Palo Vista Park. He will be providing the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm here to provide an update on the Palo Vista Park project. It has currently been brought through to 60% design plans. So we'll be sharing those design plans with you tonight and providing a short overview of the park project to date. So as you know, the City Council's goals for 2018 through 20 include improving existing parks and acquiring new parklands when available for recreational opportunities for our residents. Palo Vista Parks was purchased in November of 2016 in mind for future park development. It's located at 234 Palo Vista Drive along Civic Center Drive, and it's just under 1 acre. These are the structures that used to be located on the site. As you recall, they were 3 smaller apartment units. After the city purchased those in 2016, we then demolished those units to prepare the site for future development of the park. Here's an overview of the park site. As I mentioned, those structures have now been since removed. And what you see swirling around the bottom, that's Palo Vista Drive, and then Civic Center runs along the other perimeter of the park. Here's a couple of different views of the park site. This is looking at the adjacent apartment building, the first picture on the left-hand side, and then the second picture is looking from Civic Center Drive into the park, looking towards the 78 corridor. These are a couple of other viewpoints of the park site, including the drainage channel on the picture of the far right, which will be undergrounded as part of this park project. So before we started with our design team, and I should mention I also have Andrew Reese with ASR Landscape Architecture here this evening to answer any questions that you might have of him. He is part of our design team that set to work on this initial project scope for the park. So when we were tasked with developing the site, this was the scope that we initially created a design which we had shared with the City Council previously. The conceptual design that was presented to you was based on this initial project scope. So a gateway statement to the city. We wanted to make sure that whatever park was designed for this site was appropriate for the city and was welcoming to those that were traveling down the Civic Center corridor. We wanted to provide recreational opportunities for our residents in a safe and secure public space. And also any landscaping would be drought tolerant. We'd have connections to existing sidewalks that are already around the site to provide ADA access. There was a desire for public art as part of the park project, and a discussion of undergrounding the existing concrete drainage channel that I just showed you in the previous picture. And as I said, providing opportunities for those with disabilities to access the site. So why this site in particular? These are some of the demographics of individuals who live within 3/4 of a mile of the park project. So there's approximately 10,000 people within 3/4 of a mile. And 3/4 of a mile, as many of you know, is one of those metrics that's oftentimes used by the state and other grant agencies when they're taking a look at how far people are willing to walk to access recreational opportunities. So of those 10,000 people, 30% are under the age of 18 and 20% are lower income, which here in Vista is $54,203, as you can see on the bottom of the screen. And 38% of those individuals are living in rental housing as opposed to owner-occupied. So here's an overview of the park project timeline. So we did quite a bit of public outreach as part of this project. We heard from the City Council and from residents involved in the Bub Williamson Park project that we needed to do additional public outreach, and so that was something that we made sure that we incorporated into this park project. So initially we noticed all of the surrounding property owners and also business owners of 2 public workshops that we put on in March of 2018. We also walked the neighborhood and talked to a number of the business owners and residents in the area, notifying them of those workshops as well. Then we gathered input at those 2 public workshops, which a number of you I know attended at that time, on what types of amenities the public wanted to see in this park. Based on the input that we received from the public at that time, we put together a couple of different conceptual plan options that were then shared with the public and posted on the city's website in July of 2018. And then after that, we went to the Parks and Recreation Commission to share those conceptual designs with them as well, which was also in July. And then subsequently went to the City Council to share the conceptual plans with you. And based on those discussions, in August of 2018, City Council selected what was then called Conceptual Plan Option 2. A copy of the Conceptual Plan 2 is in your agenda report as an exhibit tonight. So based on the initial scope, we took the input that we received from the City Council and from the public and worked with our design team to create what you're going to view tonight, which are the 60% design plans that are proposed for the park. So those plans have been on the city's website, available for public feedback since April. And in addition to those initial public workshops and walking the community, we also did some additional outreach since then. We did 5 what we called informational pop-ups in different locations around the community, and those locations are listed there on the screen, where we set up some display boards with images of the 60% design plans and shared with the public what they might look like and the different details about the park project that was being proposed. Based on that, we gathered additional input from the public, which is also listed as an exhibit in your agenda report tonight. And then we shared those 60% design plans with the Parks and Recreation Commission in April as well. So what kind of input did we receive? This is a summary of all of the input to date based on all of the public outreach and conversations we've had. So very similar to our initial design scope, and we've been able to incorporate all of the requests from the public with a couple of exceptions, which I'll outline for you. But the scope to date includes public art and signage at the entrance of the park. Of course, ADA accessibility, connection to sidewalks I had previously mentioned, focus on providing additional lighting for the park and security, of course. Being adjacent to Civic Center, it's obviously a concern that any recreational opportunities we put in there should be safe and protect children in particular from conflict with the traffic on the street. And then people also wanted to see different types of site furnishings that you typically see in a park. And then a landscaping that was drought tolerant, and they wanted the park open in the evenings as well. In addition to the last slide, they also wanted to see quite a bit of programming that centered around children. I know a number of the residents that we spoke to at our informational pop-ups who actually live in the apartment buildings around the site have children, and they're quite excited that there was going to be programming in the park that they could then bring their children to participate in. A number of residents wanted grass areas because they do live in apartment buildings that don't necessarily have grass areas that they can play on, so they wanted access to grass areas for their kids. No active sports, obviously, adjacent to a very busy corridor in our city. Shade trees, secure fencing. There's an existing oak tree on the site that I believe we spoke to you previously about that was requested by the public to be preserved and protected in place and incorporated into the park project. Although restrooms were requested, we do not include them in this 60% design. Art is a part of the project. However, parking, a splash pad, and a community garden were not incorporated into the project. So this is the final scope. However, we did, as a result of some comments that we received from the City Council when we came to you last time, investigated including the undergrounding of the adjacent utilities as part of this project. So the undergrounding of the utilities is included as part of the budget that's before you tonight for consideration. And then the other larger change in the project is incorporating the adjacent widening of Civic Center. So that would be a phase 2 of the project to widen it from Postal Way just past our project on Palo Vista Drive. So the first phase of that project was currently bid out, and will be coming to you for consideration at the June 25th meeting. And then the second phase of that project is the widening of Civic Center, adding a turn lane that would go from Palo Vista Drive down to Postal Way, so that drivers have the ability to have a dedicated turn lane there on Postal Way. So I'm going to walk you through the 60% design plans now. This is an overview of the site. So I'm going to start on the right-hand side of the screen and then move to the left. What you see there in the green space is a stormwater detention basin that will service not only this park project site, but also the runoff from the road widening as well. The white space that's called out on the far right-hand side of the screen, that is actually a driveway that would service the adjacent apartment building. So the address to that apartment building is 410 Palo Vista Drive, and the current driveway actually punches out to Civic Center Drive. But due to the grade change in that driveway, once you widen Civic Center, it creates a requirement for us to actually reroute that driveway so that we can maintain access for those residents. So part of this project will incorporate, due to the road widening, the reconfiguration of that driveway. We have met with the property owner of the apartment building, and he was amenable to that. So it actually provides additional value to the residents of his apartment building, because now when they exit their apartment building, they're forced to only turn right onto Civic Center, whereas now they'll be able to swing around to Palo Vista Drive and hit the light and turn left or right. So as you move through the park project, you have the stormwater detention basin on the right-hand side and a sidewalk connection. If you have been out to the site and taken a look around, you'll notice that a lot of the foot traffic that goes from the transit station further up the road actually utilizes that sidewalk right there. So we wanted to make sure that we maintained that access for those people who wanted to either go through the park when it's open or transverse the park along the perimeter of the park if they are going to the transit station. So you see we have a number of different entrances to the park. The main entrance, of course, is on the corner of Civic Center Drive and Palo Vista. In the center, you'll see is a large open area. That is natural turf area, as I had mentioned before. And then just to the left of that, in that small triangular area, is the location that's proposed for a public art piece, which currently we're suggesting that we do a Kites Over Vista. So we'll provide the pedestal there, and then we could either locate a permanent kite there, or we could do a rotating exhibit of a different kite if we wanted. The entire site is fenced, of course, for security, so that solid line that you see going around, that is the fencing for the project. And as you move to the left into the more circular programming area, I'll show you the next slide, which focuses on those different programming elements. So that center circular area has quite a bit of programming for children, because that was the #1 request from the public that we heard. It includes 2 children's playgrounds, some spinners, a climbing branch area, a seating area for the parents who are there with their kids, the passive grass area that I mentioned, which is natural turf, and the fencing and shade structures as well. So this is a close-up of the different programming pieces. So on the top, you see there's a playground with shade structures overhead, which services 5 to 12-year-olds. On the bottom part is a different playground that services 2 to 5-year-olds. Those 2 areas will have resilient play surfacing underneath. The section in the center is what we're calling our twig branch seating area. So it's actually concrete seating areas that's surrounded by landscaping for the kids and the parents to utilize while they're there at the park. And then to the left of that is the climbing branch play structure, which I'll show you a picture of in just a second. You'll also notice on the perimeter of that circle you have different seating areas, and then also we have bike racks as well for people to utilize. There's 6 benches total that go around the park, and then there's one further down in the other area of the park as well. So this is a picture of the playground area and some of the equipment that is being proposed looking towards Civic Center. So you'll see the relief of that concrete seating area, but I'll show you a better picture of that in a subsequent slide that'll show some of the landscaping as well. But you see the two different playground areas proposed. And then to the left on the bottom, those are some of those spinner features that I previously mentioned that are really popular with kids these days. Here's a different view of that same area, just looking south at those different features. In the center is a water fountain. We will have a water fountain there on site, as well as the benches and trash cans as well. So these are pictures of the actual spinners that are being proposed. So there's 3 of the saddle spinners that you see on the right-hand side, and then 1 of the topsy-turvy spinners. And then this is the larger Omni spinner that, again, the kids love. Every time I watch them utilize it, I just don't understand. But the kids don't seem to get sick, so it's great. And this is a picture of the climbing tree structure that I had showed you a picture of earlier. So what's being proposed is, and if you want to actually view one of these, I went to the One Paseo project that's down in Carmel Valley that was recently completed. So if any of you have had a chance to visit that, they actually have one of these there. And when I visited, it was maybe good timing, but there were kids all over this thing. So the climbing structure, I think, will be a popular addition to the park. Underneath it will be the resilient surfacing that you typically see at a playground. And then over that will be the fake turf, the AstroTurf. And these are just some pictures of the shade structures that will be over the 2 different playground areas. And as I mentioned, the entire site will be ringed by fencing for security purposes. There's a couple of different options for fencing types that we're exploring. This picture here that you see is black powder-coated steel. It also has the city's name and the name of the park on the side of the fencing with our current city logo. However, that's not to say we couldn't change that out to some other graphical representation. The idea is to possibly hire an artist to create a piece that would be there on as part of the fencing that would represent the city. So this is only for informational purposes, but we would explore a design that would be suitable for the fencing that would look attractive as you travel down Civic Center Drive. And as I mentioned, we will have the Kites Over Vista art piece and a entrance sign to the park. The one you see on our right is our standard park sign that we have at a couple of other parks and at other key locations around the city. And this is a different picture of that twig seating bench area that I had showed you earlier that will have landscaping surrounding it to soften those concrete edges to make it look a little bit more attractive and integrated, integrated into the park. And as I mentioned, we'll also have the water fountain and the bike racks as well. As you remember, last month we came and talked to you about the overall budget of not only Bub Williamson Park, but Palo Vista Park, since they are both being funded from a similar funding source, which is our park development fee. So the cost estimates for both Bub Williamson and Palo Vista Parks have been prepared, and they will require additional funding, as we shared with you before. We did listen to City Council last month, and we took a look at the budgets and made sure that we were trying to take a closer look at how we can save costs. So as we mentioned, Bub Williamson Park will require an additional 1.9, and Palo Vista, as currently designed, will require an additional 2.3 million. So that would leave $2.5 million in the park development fee fund for future park projects. So if approved tonight, staff will include those construction costs as well as a recommendation for the park development fees to fully fund that project when we come back to City Council. There is one other thing that I didn't discuss in the presentation, which is the name of the park. We mentioned that previously, that we're still accepting names for the park. It doesn't have to be named Palo Vista Park. We could stick with that name if you wanted, or we could consider some other options. Some of the options that have been proposed to date were included in your agenda report. So if you do have any suggestions, we're more than happy to entertain those. So the 60% design plans that I shared with you this evening, they have been posted on the city's website. We did get a couple of comments via email from the public, which are also part of your agenda package. And so future steps, if approved tonight, we would work with our design team to bring the design plans forward to 100% completion, which would be complete by the end of the summer. And then we would bring the revised budget and the final designs to City Council for consideration in the fall. That would bring our construction bid opening in the fall as well. And then, of course, pending funding availability, construction would be bid out in the winter, with construction actually starting in the spring of next year. So that completes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Councilmember Contreras.
This design is absolutely beautiful. I love the geometry of it. I know that it's a challenging site, and it just looks fantastic. Back in 2018, I think it was before the March 24th public workshop, and me and a couple friends went and just informally went door to door and let people know that there was a workshop coming up. And it was incredible how many kids were playing, but they didn't really have that much space. They were like going through the apartment, like on the first floor, whatnot, and trying to, utilize whatever little open space they had. But there were so many kids. And to see the data, that 30% of the population within 3/4 of a mile is under the age of 18. And so, what I saw definitely correlates with this data. And also, there's not too much around there for the residents, especially something like this that's within walking distance. So this is just incredible that our city is going to put this forward for that community. And it's just amazing. I know that we're talking about kids climbing on that tree, but I kind of want to try it out too. It looks really cool. And having a water, access to water on site, definitely important because, it gets hotter and hotter. So I want to make sure that the kids are hydrated. One of the points that I just want to make is that the Civic Center, the widening that's going to be done on Civic Center, that the funds to do that are not coming from our park development fees. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the budget is broken out in your agenda report. So those funds would actually utilize our traffic impact fee fund.
Thank you so much, too, for the breakdown. That's really helpful. And I know that was kind of a concern early on when I first heard about this park, and that there was going to be a widening of Civic Center. I was like, man, I don't think we should really be using our park fees to do that, but we're not, so that's good. Other than that, I am so excited to see this come to fruition. It's greatly needed in the surrounding neighborhoods. So thank you so much to all the community and, our landscape architect and staff. This is an incredible design here. So, and that's pretty much all I have to say.
I will,
Deputy, whoops.
I was going to add another thing. You mentioned the budget. So there is an additional budget breakdown as Exhibit 7 in your agenda report, because that was some information that City Council had previously requested when we had the Bub Williamson Park project here. So I did want to point that out. And then, yes, and Ms. Zimmerman reminded me as well that one of the other things that we talked about was different applications for grant funding, not only for Palo Vista Park, but for Bub Williamson. So We are applying for a grant for Palo Vista Park in the amount of $3 million. That's through some Prop 68 funding that will become available. So we'll be submitting that grant in August. And then we are looking at some other additional park project grant opportunities for Bub Williamson as well. So we have not forgotten that, and we will try and deliver on that too.
Super. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, very excited to have this park coming to the community. It's definitely a gateway area, and it's a great addition. I actually really like the city logo on the fence. That looked great. I'd nix Palo Vista Park. In terms of naming the park, I'm in no rush to do that. There's no reason to rush for that. We can call it Palo Vista as a working name for the next 30 years, and when the community comes to the right name for it, maybe we come to it in 3 days, maybe we come to it in 3 years. We don't need to rush that. Palo Vista is a fine working name. When we come across the correct name for it, we'll know it. So we don't need to rush that. How tall is the fence around the perimeter?
It's 5 feet.
Okay. Is the, can I borrow your laser pointer? I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to point some stuff out. Can you put the slide back up with the, which one of these, or I have the thing that control the, which one of these buttons is the pointer? The dot?
The large one goes forward, the smaller one goes back.
No, the laser pointer is the dot?
Yeah, top.
Oh, there we go. I can't see it. No, this is the larger one. Why can't I? Oh, there's the dot. The dot's very small. Okay, there we go. This area right here, is this going to be a raised berm as we discussed?
There will be some grade change, that landscaping area that runs along Civic Center, so that you not only have the 5-foot fencing as a deterrent, but there will be a little bit of a grade change as well.
I'd like to know how much. A couple of other thoughts I have. This is a lot of concrete. Is this walkway to scale on this drawing?
Yes, I believe so.
Is it to scale to the?
It's a 5-foot walkway, Deputy Mayor.
I want to know if it's to scale to the dimension of the parcel. Okay, that's fine. I think it's a lot of walkway. I think if it's a great idea that I'm going to take a diversion and I'm going to do this, this cut through the park. It's a nice concept, but if I'm making that walk every day, I'm taking the shortest route from A to B, and I'm going to enjoy the fact that there's a nice landscape, and it's beautiful adjacent. We got a lot of concrete here, which diminishes the amount of turf, and it also increases costs. I think it's too much. Yes, it is a very cool design, but one of the things I am learning with a lot of the designs that I've been presented for different things is they look a lot different when they get built than I think they're going to, primarily because we squeeze too much into them. And I'm beginning to be a big believer that less is more here. Andrew's dying to make a comment. Let's hear it. Come on up.
Mayor, considerate city council members, thank you. Great honor and privilege to be a part of this team and serving you all and the citizens of Vista, so thank you again. If you remember when we came forward with our concept plans and we talked about this, I would agree with you, Deputy Mayor, about less is more when you have larger spaces and bigger spaces. But we talked about this park being a pocket park, a smaller type park and a gateway park. And the reason why we ended up with so many walkways was part of the programming of this park as far as breaking up some of the space. If you noticed, we had a large consensus from the community to have smaller turf areas and broken up turf areas to discourage some of the more active sports that happens when you get into larger play fields. So the whole idea of designing a pocket park is actually trying to put more and having a higher level of design and a programming in a small space, so you get more out of it. You get different layers of use, different multiple uses. So when we designed this, the sidewalks here in this park aren't just for conveyance to get from point A to point B. They're part of the overall fabric of the design. This whole park as itself is considered a piece of art, from the plant material that goes into it, to the arrangement of the fencing, to the arrangement of the walkways. We envision the kids on their strollers, their moms walking through the park, providing different routes through the park so that people aren't just on one walkway doing one thing, just going from point A to B. It's actually part of the overall experience. It's giving somebody different loops to do in the park and different options, and we're trying to do a lot in a little space. It also helps with the framing and breaking it up. When you have turf areas and you're thinking about mowing and maintenance, we've surrounded the park in the dark green with ornamental landscaping.
So
and then
here's
we have
the thing I'd like to know. When we get to the next stage
Yes.
in the design process, are we going to see some elevations? Because I want to guarantee you that nobody is ever going to see this view of this park unless they happen to be in a helicopter.
We have this actually in 3D. We have this in a massing model in 3D. I didn't bring it or show people because we use it for our own checks and balances, and sometimes when you show things in 3D to people, they automatically say that's exactly what we're going to get. And this is a rough working model that we do on our own dime as checks and balances to make sure that our designs are as what we say they are. And what it's possible to do, if Tony's okay, or we could probably bring some rough 3D snapshots to you and show you what those would look like.
Whatever we say yes to tonight, we're not. That's what we're going to build, because we're going to put a lot more money into the design after this. So if I can't win some agreement, and I don't think I'm going to, because I know you're pretty far along here, but I just want to point out my concern right now that it's a lot of concrete.
We looked at doing decomposed granite gravel pathways. If you look to the bottom right, there's a large entry maintenance area with the double gates where it says vehicular access. You can see that there's some small, thinner DG walkways on that. Yeah. But when we spoke with the community and we discussed this whole idea of ADA accessibility, maintenance, concrete is just a longer life, and you get better access. And for this park, we had looked at a couple of different designs where we broke up some of the concrete, we changed it to different materials, and we looked at removing of it, and we still felt
how
very
much,
strongly.
how would this quantity of play equipment, how would that compare to what's at South Buena Vista Park? It looks like it would be 2.5 times as much equipment.
I really couldn't say.
It's a lot of play structure equipment for a very small area.
Yeah, as I had mentioned, that's the primary purpose of this park. It's geared towards children, so that's what we dedicated most of
the. How you've designed it. I think our initial discussions were that it was right on a busy road, and so you talk about primary purpose, but that wasn't necessarily in the original primary purpose. We had been concerned about the children and the busy traffic. It's a lot. It's really a lot. You guys are going to be surprised how packed this thing is going to look. I'm really concerned about that. I really am. I just want it to look really nice, and I want it to be functional. This thing's going to be packed. There is so much going on in this very small space. I think it's too much. I really do. It's nice. It's all very nice, but it is a whole lot. And I think if we were to step back and think on this for a second, I think we could minimize the design, reduce the cost, and have something beautiful and functional. There's a lot going on here. So that said, was the picture of the drinking fountain that you showed us, is that the actual fountain you're going to source and install?
It is, yeah.
I think it's ugly. It looks like it belongs in a prison yard. Let's see. Okay, so $2.5 million is what's left after we. Are we going to do the undergrounding of the electric lines? Is that coming out of the Park Development Fund?
So the undergrounding costs about $950,000. So that is part of the project budget that you have before you this evening.
And there will be $2.5 million left in the park development fund after we spend the $950 for the undergrounding of the utilities.
Correct.
Okay.
And that assumes no additional park development fees coming into the city. That's just based on today's budget.
Sure.
That's as of June 30th this month.
Right, and we feel pretty comfortable about that 950,000 number.
Yeah, so we actually have a utility design consultant that we've utilized on other projects like the Paseo Santa Fe project that we're working with to make sure that SDG&E's costs don't run away.
Right.
They sometimes can be notorious for that.
Well, it's a huge expense, but we're also taking our own medicine there because we're asking everybody else to underground. And this being a gateway visual, I think it's going to be a really important part of the visual aspect of it to underground the utilities. So I do think that that's important, even though it is a great expense. So I'll conclude with my remarks. I mean, it is a beautiful design. Remember that nobody's going to view it from above. So the neat geometric design of all the extra walkways. And I just don't see people going to this small parcel to do laps. You know, it's a really small piece of land. You know, I've been out and walked on it. It's not big. It's deceiving what we're looking at here. You know, if this thing was 4 or 5 acres, you know, what do we have, 2.5 acres? What is it?
It's actually just under an acre, 0.9.
It's just under an acre.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. You know, this is a really small piece of land. I am redoubling my comments. Just under an acre. Whoa. It's too much. It's too much.
Deputy Mayor, and whatever the council determines is appropriate is what we'll move forward with. But I can speak personally. There are a couple of parks in North County that I specifically go to because I can walk laps and see my child the whole time while she's playing on play structures. So yes, it's a small circuit, but it might be an appropriate circuit for parents that do want to walk and have their kids play at the same time.
I mean, I think the other thing about that is, and this is one of the big issues, we turned this into a destination park rather than kind of an inline park. And my concern about that is there's no parking. So in terms of drawing people to the park, it's not like people can, there's not a lot of parking there. So that's a big challenge. I think we plan for a lot more activation of this site than is maybe going to really be, consistent with the infrastructure there. But I might be wrong. I would really like to see those elevation drawings and try and better conceptually understand what all this looks like, from the elevation rather than the overhead, because the overhead can be very deceiving. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, and actually, I would just tell you, I agree with the assistant city manager. I go to the park. I've been taking my grandkids to the park who are 4 and 7, and they would love this because the parks are so busy. The kids are all over those play structures, and so I don't think it's too much because I think a lot of kids will be all over that thing, the whole park. And I would walk around. I do laps. I walk while I can see them. As I can see them, it would be nice to have that. So, however, I can't go there because I can't park. That'd be my only. Can't go to this park because there's no place to park. I wish there was more parking places and I've been by there. The apartments are all parked up all the time around there, so there's like no extra parking in that area. So it'll be like a park but there's lots of kids and families in that neighborhood, so I'm sure they'll use it a lot. So anyway, Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much for this presentation. I think this is a great park. I think the elements are awesome. I have to say I appreciate the little loops. I'm a mother of twins, and I got to say, when my little kids they're 25 now, but when they would run down the street or at the park, I wanted a little breakaway for them to lose their concentration and flip around that and come back to me. Especially when I had 2 of them, one going one way and another one going the other way. If they both did a loop around in the middle, I'd meet them back there. So I think when you have kids and you see how kids run around and what their mindset is, especially at 2 years old or 3 years old or 4 years old, or as a mom who wanted to keep my eye on my kid and maybe I got to walk a little bit, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. And I'm looking at one of these little walkways where it's got just a little triangle grass in the middle of it. And I could just see my kids giggling the whole time they're running loops around it. I think it would be great, and they would be down for the rest of the afternoon, which is what we all look forward to as parents, right? I think the concrete is good because, as it was mentioned, when you fill it all in with green space or grass, you end up with the bigger kids coming in to do a pickup game of whatever, baseball, soccer, whatever. And you really don't want that to happen. You want this to be left to be open space for a park space, not for somebody to come in and monopolize it for an organized sport. Which was one of the conversations I think we had at the time when we were talking about breaking up all the grass. I think you did a great job with it. I'm really excited about the twig seating. When you first said it, when it was first brought up, I was trying in my mind thinking like the pocket park we're looking at doing by the gazebo, where it literally is just a twig you sit on, and how uncomfortable is that going to be? So I was excited to see the picture of it, that it was just concrete, but with a little bit of a design to it. So I honestly think you nailed it with this design. I love all of the elements in this design. I like all of the places that the kids can be and not be on top of each other, that it's a really well laid out plan. I do have a concern about it being so close to Civic Center Drive, and we talked about that in the beginning, as the deputy mayor said. And I agree with the idea of that one section from the curving sidewalk toward the street, maybe rising a little bit, making it a little bit harder for a toddler to, aim at the roadway. But the fencing, of course, will help. But I do like the idea of a raised berm going along that area to make it harder for the little ones and easier for moms to corral them. I like the fence that you showed us, and I like having the city logo on it just the way it was. I think that's beautiful. I think it's great. I think it's a great use of the city logo to incorporate it there the same way that we do into other areas. And I'm not opposed to trying to work on the name right now. I don't think we need to wait and feel it out for 30 years. I think it's a gateway into our community, and I love Gateway Park. I just love that we name it the gateway into our community coming down Civic Center. And I'm not opposed to Civic Center Park, but I really like Gateway Park because I do see it as a gateway into our community. And we're doing a couple of different things down this corridor, trying to make it an aesthetically pleasing and welcoming gateway into our community. So I think this is a great park. I like the look of it. I'm excited to see the kids playing there. I think Gateway Park is a great idea. Looking at the drinking fountain, although I have to agree with the deputy mayor on this drinking fountain does absolutely nothing for me. And also,
I will comment on that. So our landscape architect did suggest a different water fountain design,
okay,
which we requested that he switch out to what is our park standard. And that's for maintenance and ongoing interchangeability of parts. However, there is a secondary design that we could take a look at and consider. So it's more artistic.
Okay. I just don't like the look of it. It's not very friendly, not very pleasing, and there are only so many things you can do with the water fountain. I get that. But I do have a concern. This one has the dog water feeder on it, and then the picture next door to it is the doggy bag thing. I don't want this to turn into a dog park. I don't want to make it too friendly for dogs. This is for kids, not for dogs. And so I think if you keep putting amenities in there for dogs, people are going to turn it into a dog park, and you're going to see dogs all over the place, and I don't want to see that. So I would not be in favor of adding a lot of dog things to it. People are going to bring their dogs because people do. We just don't want to make it welcoming, and we don't want to make it a thing that people think, oh, look, here's a doggy fountain and a doggy bag, and let me just bring my dog. And then you end up with dogs running all over the place, fighting for time and space and energy from the kids. And I wouldn't want that. So That's the only drawback for me on this park is the dog amenities. And it's a neighborhood park. It's going to be primarily for the people in this neighborhood. I think if they have their dogs at home or they walk their dogs on their regular route, we don't need to make it a destination place for dogs.
But we want them to pick up their poop.
We do want them to pick up their poop. And I know that we have to have dog bags everywhere, which is another conversation, honestly, not for this one. So if you have to put it in there, a doggy bag receptacle, if you have to do that, then you have to do it. But we don't have to put a little doggy fountain in there too. I'm just saying, you put too much in there, you're going to end up bringing a bunch of dogs, and then it's not going to be a kids park, it's going to be a dog park. And I would hate to see that happen to this park. But I love all the other elements of it. I like the fencing, I like the city of Vista on it. Love the name Gateway Park. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to Gateway Park either. It kind of just, that's what it is. So, and I do appreciate Deputy Mayor Franklin's looking at the concrete, because it made me think a little bit, and which is always a good thing. And I'm just reminding myself of when I was there. And I think that if there were a ton of sidewalks everywhere where people could walk and, have their scooter, like someone said, then maybe it would be a little bit too much concrete. But because the infrastructure for mobility of pedestrians isn't really that great in that area, I definitely see kids just running around everywhere, and I think it's really important that we do try to minimize the attraction of this park for active sports because of all the things that we've mentioned. But yeah, I'm starting to really like that Gateway Park. So I don't know, might have to talk about that more as a council. But and also, I thought that was a really good point too about the dog little bowl on the bottom. Like maybe we don't need to do that. I feel personally like those kind of get in the way too. So I appreciate that comment from Councilmember Rigby. I'm still really in love with this design though. I think it's phenomenal. And then seeing the City of Vista logo on there just looks so cool. But Gateway Park, I like it.
Councilmember Green.
All right. As a kid who grew up with my brother and sister in a little bitty apartment with no yard at all, and the closest park to me was Rain Tree Park growing up, and it wasn't the biggest park at all, but it was super cool to actually have a place that I could go play because I had no yard at all. A lot of those people who are living over there off of Postal Way and Paula Way have absolutely no yard at all. They have no place to play and no place to ride their bikes. I think the cement, walkways are great. There's going to be kids who are going to learn how to ride their bikes at this park, which I think is cool. I also like the separation of it. One of the things I had circled, for the record, I have a little puppy. Her name's Pancake, and she's amazing. And I specifically wrote down, I love the pancake fountain. Yeah, I would bring my dog here if you have a fountain. So if you don't want me and my awesome dog to come to your park, get rid of the fountain. But me and my dog are awesome, and kids love us. So maybe you want to keep the fountain for the dog. The other thing I want to make sure you think, and all joking aside, is that these people don't have a yard. They have a little bitty 3-foot by 5-foot patio with no grass and nowhere for their dogs to run around. So the truth is these people are going to be taking their dogs for walks here. There's nothing you can do about it. They all own little puppies, less than 20 pounds per the CCNRs, I'm sure, but they're going to need some place to take their dogs. So I feel like this is really our opportunity to show this community that we love them. There were 2 structures on that lot there, and you can call them whatever you'd like, but they were very bad structures and they were detrimental to that community. And by us purchasing those, demoing those, and building this park really shows this community that they matter. And I feel like putting these amenities, and even an overwhelming amount of amenities and an overwhelming amount of spots for them to walk, is definitely a step in the right direction for this community because they really need it. And, like I said, as a kid who grew up in a 2-bedroom place with my my older brother and sister and mom and shared a room and had no place to play, I would have been blown away. Luz Duran Park wasn't built when I lived on East Los Angeles Street. I only had Raintree Park. There was no indoor soccer arena. I got really good at handball up at the top there before there was a Boys and Girls Club space up there. But really, the city providing that little area for me, you know, taught me how to play soccer. I mean, taught me how to survive King of the Hill. It was a big deal. So I really appreciate this park and what it's going to bring to that community. I don't think that you can give them too much. I think that, you know, putting all this stuff in there is going to be just enough. I think it's all going to be utilized. I think this park's going to be very active. I do have concerns with the safety of it being so close to the street. So I do want to make sure that elevation-wise we're good to go. Perhaps some type of protective barrier or space between the road and the fence so that if a car veers through it 35 miles an hour downhill, it's not going to take out a, you know, play structure and a bunch of kids. So that'd be my biggest concern. But overall, I love the park. I love what you've done with it. Please keep the doggy poop bags because some people with dogs don't bring their poop bags, and we need to have those there because those are bad dog owners, and we have to, you know, compensate for them as well. So I like everything. It is an ugly fountain, but having something for my pancake to drink. The other thing that I want to throw out too is I love the little walking trails as a chubby dude who doesn't walk big trails. Oh man, this is perfect size. And if it gets too long, I can cut it right in half if I'm winded. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Rigby.
The staff report says the recommendation is to review and approve. Are you looking for a motion, or do you just have the direction that you need?
A motion would be great.
Okay, then I would move that we approve the designs as presented. I don't know what to tell you about the doggy fountain. You guys do what you want. I'm not going to die on that hill.
I'll second your motion. And I just wanted to say, I'm not opposed to all the wonderful amenities. I'm just concerned that a lot of times when we look at these designs and we see an overhead, I'm just concerned that a lot of times things are a lot more dense when we see them built, and sometimes less is more when these things. So I just want to clarify my point there. It's not about, you know, this is my district. I want to make this the best park it can be for the people that I represent. I just, you know, the point I was trying to make is sometimes you make the mistake of trying to cram too much into a small area, and it, you know, it actually is a little less conducive than you think it's going to be. And, you know, just as an overall commentary, and I think we did this with Bub, you know, the community workshops are important, but the problem is, and for the future, we are taking everything that everyone brought to us and including everything in the designs.
That's not true.
Rather than, I think that we have crammed a lot of stuff into these designs, and most important, one of our top goals is to acquire other lands for park. And honestly, I really care about that. I care about another park in, you know, Councilmember Green's district and another one in Councilmember Contreras' district. And the more we spend money, you know, I feel like we acquire the land now, land's not getting cheaper, they're not making any more of it. We can come back and we can improve the parks later. My concern is an acquisition of the land now before it gets built out. So that's one of the thought processes that I didn't elaborate on, but as the designs get more and more elaborate and expensive for these parks, it diminishes our ability to acquire other parklands, and that is a concern. You know, and I want to give voice to that because I want us to build parks all around the city, not just in my district, although again, I'm glad to have this park coming to District 4. I truly am, and it is a nice design, and I do appreciate the artistry of the design, but I'm also, and I really appreciate your comments about being able to walk around, you know, for moms to be able to do a loop, or moms and dads to be able to do a loop and keep an eye on the kids. That, I didn't think about that. That makes a lot of sense to me. I like that. And I'm definitely for the dog poop bags. I just wish people would actually put the dog poop bag into the garbage can after they put the dog poop into it, rather than putting it like on the ground somewhere and walking off from it. You know, oh, I picked it up and I tied it and then I threw it in the bushes. I mean,
people are doing that everywhere. It's, I look socially responsible, but then I'm not actually carrying it to the garbage can. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. I know pancakes, leave behinds get all the way to the refuse container.
So are you going to second my motion?
I already did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear
That's
you.
okay. Yeah.
And
I'll even give you your pointer back, although I felt, very empowered having this.
Yeah. My only thing is, are there shade sails over where the parents sit? I don't see a lot of seating in there for parents.
Parents don't get a lot of things in life.
Well-
Shade sails is another one of them.
I know, but
They're
when I go
very
with my
expensive.
grandkids,
No,
I'm always looking for some shade.
Yeah, they do not. However, there are going to be trees over the twig concrete seating area. So
Are they going to be
as those-
trees or sticks?
They'll be actually growing into very mature trees with shade for the
Growing
parents.
into very mature trees for
Just
how
like
long?
their
And
kids
how long?
are growing
they going to be
into
box
wonderful
trees?
adults. I believe they're 15 gallon. All right, 24 and 36. So
Okay,
real quickly.
it's just that when there's, they don't provide a lot of shade until I'm gone.
Oh, well, I'm really happy we
really
kept
gone.
the oak tree.
Okay, we good to it. Okay, everybody, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. We have one more discussion item. It's D3. It's our City Council goals update.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. Kevin Ham again, Director of Economic Development. This item is scheduled for your semi-annual update of the Council goals. These goals were set by the Council, as you might remember, on March 6, 2018. The last update was given in December of 2018. The updates are highlighted in red on the attached document as well as the presentation this evening. You might remember that we have categorized the goals as high, medium, and low. High goals are goals that have funding, staff support, and are of significant importance to the council and the community. Medium goals are goals that are routine, may have funding available or staff assigned in the near future. Low priority goals are goals that do not have funding or staff assigned. These are the 8 goals that we have, which is continual fiscal responsibility, continue to improve the flow of traffic, reduce congestion, and improve our roads and sidewalks, develop a strategic plan to address homelessness, continue to decrease blight and improve the image of our city, economic development, public safety, parks and recreation, and maintain standards for multifamily housing. We've pulled out a couple of goals that we wanted to highlight for you this evening, so I will go through those. With regard to Goal 2B6, which is widen roadways to create space for additional travel lanes, resulting in increased intersection and roadway capacity, this is a high priority goal. The new northbound right turn lane at Civic Center and Postal Way is currently out for bid, with the award anticipated for June 25th City Council meeting. And I wanted to stop on each of these and see if you had any questions. Nope. All right, moving on to Goal 2E5. This is a new task. It was based on the staff's review of the area's needs, a grant opportunity that became available, and the community input. And the city obtained a $4 million grant from the state for the Townsite Complete Street project. The project will construct sidewalks, traffic calming measures, and pedestrian crossings on Townsite Drive, West Los Angeles Drive, and North Santa Fe Avenue. Any questions? No. Got it. With regard to Goal 3A1, which is procuring a consultant to assist with the development and implementation of a homelessness master plan, city staff received additional feedback just last week from the council, and we'll be putting together a strategic plan drafted, coming back to you for consideration later this year. Any questions?
So you didn't finish it yet?
It is not finished yet.
I'm just joking. Sorry.
With regard to Goal 4B5, which is to modify the municipal code to strengthen regulations related to abandoned shopping carts. Public Works staff is now removing abandoned shopping carts from public view and storing them for retrieval, thereby reducing the visual blight in a more timely manner. Staff is researching options to recoup costs for this service and researching options for requiring businesses to purchase and install wheel locks on shopping carts. Any questions?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment here. Mr. Mathunze is doing a great job in the Public Works Department. This is so important. I really appreciate Patrick and his focus on this too. Picking up these shopping carts, these are so ugly in our community, and it makes such a difference. And I really tremendously appreciate our Public Works folks who are in vehicles that can, that can put a shopping cart in. They stop, they throw that shopping cart in it, they bring it back to the yard. I appreciate us working with our stores. I want to be good partners to the businesses too, but this is so ugly in our neighborhoods. And one shopping cart brings the nicest looking area down to just, it's horrible. So thank you for your focus on that. Truly important.
You're welcome. Goal 5D1, continue efforts to attract retail, restaurants, hotel uses to the city of Vista. One new restaurant is anticipated opening here in the near future. That's Caliche Town in our downtown. One new hotel that was mentioned earlier this evening is the Ayers Hotel is under construction. We're also working with several additional hotels that are evaluating Vista as a location. Pacific Premier Bank opened in Paseo Point. As you know, that was a vacant location for some time, and it's nice to have a use in there. And Norm Reeves Honda will open in July. Any questions on economic development?
Oh, Councilor Green, I'm sorry.
No problem. I just had a question about Caliche Town. It's been renovated. It looks like it's ready to be open. It's my understanding there's like a holdup on the ABC license or something like that. Is there anything as a city we can do to light the fire to get that done, or is it already, somebody's already lit that fire? I mean, what's the time frame on that, I guess, is the real question.
Yeah, so they're on their third ABC license. The first one fell out for them. The second ABC license fell out. And so they entered into a concrete deal and are acquiring an ABC license, and they turned that into the ABC on March 24th. The typical time that it takes the ABC to go through the process now to issue that is about 3 months. So we've tried to talk to the ABC, see what we could do to move that along, to try to help them out, because this is not corporate ownership. This is actually a franchisee that's trying to move it forward, and so we've tried to help.
But we're right there now anyways, right, in the 24. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
With regard to Goal 7A2, stay within council-approved subsidy levels for cultural arts, recreation, senior services, senior nutrition, and WAVE divisions. All budget units within cultural arts, recreation, senior services, senior nutrition, and the WAVE are projected to be within the council-approved subsidy limits and cost recovery targets for this current fiscal year and next fiscal year.
On the WAVE, even with the weather being bad, do you think we'll hit it, or the budget? Because the weather's been really cold.
I think it's too early to predict that. Excuse me. However, with the weather, the last 2 days in particular, we've seen. I didn't put the numbers in the weekly update for you, but the WAVE has had, I would say, dismal attendance since it's open. However, in the last 2 days, visibly, haven't got the counts, but visibly, it is very active. So if the weather can stay at least on the 80-degree plus side, I think the WAVE will do fine. But it's a long summer. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
With regard to Goal 8B2, utilize affordable housing funds to partner with developer to upgrade existing multifamily housing. Wakeland Housing broke ground in May on a project to construct 81 units of affordable housing for seniors and 60 units at the CHW Paseo Artist Village received final approval from the Planning Commission in May as well. Any questions? Goal 8B1, continue to encourage participation in the Sheriff Department's CFMH program. 16 multifamily housing properties are participating in the voluntary crime-free multifamily housing program, and with an additional 4 participating in the mandated program. This concludes my presentation this evening. The rest of the staff and I are available for any questions.
Anybody questions? You don't need a motion or anything, though, do you?
It was
It's
just
for
an update.
discussion. Any questions or anything?
I just wanted to say thank you very much. Doing a great job, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate you. Okay, with that, we have oral communications. I have a couple of oral communication speakers here. So, is Carl Hughes still here? You at home? Okay. Becky Rapp.
Good evening, and thank you. I know it's getting late, but I just wanted to mention that I am very concerned about the safety of businesses and residents in Vista after reading the news articles and TV coverage of 6 marijuana extraction labs blowing up in San Diego, where I work. One example of the media coverage went like this. On 5/8/19, DEA investigates lab extraction explosion. DEA Narcotics Task Force found 220 small butane canisters in and around the house that caused a series of mini explosions, destroying the house and blackening the neighboring house, sending 3 to the hospital with serious injuries. DEA noted how volatile the marijuana extraction process is, and it is this process that creates the concentrates, edibles, and vape cartridges, a favorite of our teens. And the news showed the burned pot plants and other debris running down the street into the gutters. Imagine the contamination of that water in the streets where it ran along. 2 weeks later, the media covered explosions in El Cajon, Warner Springs, and Point Loma. Last week, the DEA raided its 6th extraction lab in 6 weeks, this time in Lemon Grove, which the DEA described as very sophisticated. You can see by the pictures, and I have a handout here, that it had large machinery and quantities of ethanol. Dangerous levels of combustible gas forced authorities to air the building out for half an hour before federal agents could search, and the San Diego County hazmat crews hauled large quantities of ethanol, toxic, flammable, and colorless from the site. I recognize all these extraction labs were unpermitted, but the level of machinery at the site suggests that a permitted extraction lab would not be different. I would respectfully suggest that the City of Vista not proceed with permitting these extraction labs until you have a report from the county hazmat staff reading the appropriate resources that would be necessary to protect citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for staying all that time to give us your report. And that is our last of our speakers, so let's go down. Anybody have comments? Councilmember Rigby?
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came tonight and are still here. We appreciate you being here and participating in the life of our community very much. And I want to say thank you to staff. You do a great job for us. I know it's not always easy. Sure, it's not easy sitting here and hearing some of our comments. I know that what you do for us, you do for the city, you do from your heart. I know it's a job, but I really feel from all of you that it's that you really do have a heart for our community and our city. And I just wanted you to know that I appreciate what you do for all of us very, very much, and thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, I would second every one of those remarks. Thank you for all you do for us, and to everybody that came tonight, thank you for your comments and for being here.
Councilmember Green.
Just more thank yous. Thank you. Have a great night.
Councilmember Contreras.
Man, the thank yous are just coming. I'm gonna just sing it a little bit. Thank you. And again, Alley Art Festival was awesome. I don't know if anybody was able to check it out, but it was really cool to see, especially a lot of Vistans. This is the first time that they were able to have a stage in the Avo, and they were just like, my name's on the marquee. They're so invested in their community, and it was just amazing to see them perform. So
I hope everybody has a great rest of their night. And again, thank you to staff and to everybody who participates at these council meetings. That's the way that we get to hear directly from the residents. It's really good. So thank you so much.
And I have a few little comments here. By the way, the Moonlight kicks off this summer season tomorrow, June the 12th, with a Broadway production of The Producers. So ticket information is available at moonlightstage.com. And then the Free Movies in the Park series begins this Saturday, June 15th at 8 p.m. with the movie Bumblebee. It's in the Buena Vista Park ball fields. So movie details are available online at cityofvista.com. It's summer. Our Moonlight and our movies are coming along. And so celebrate Father's Day at the Wave Water Park this Sunday, June 16th. The ads are free with a paid child's ticket. Check thewavewaterpark.com for more information on that. And the annual Taste of Vista Festival is next Wednesday, June 19th. Takes place in our historic downtown. There's a link to ticket information online at cityofvista.com. Are you getting all at cityofvista.com, moonlightstage.com? All these different .coms here. One more thing, just happy Father's Day to all the fathers. I hope they have a great fathers have a great day coming this weekend. Great Sunday for you guys. And I'll turn it over to my city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to say.
Nothing? You don't have any?
I have no further comments.
Are you sure you didn't lose your paper or something?
Nope.
Okay. How about our city attorney?
Thank you very much.
Our city clerk, Kathy, or Assistant City Clerk Claire, anything? No. Okay, with that, we are adjourned at 9:15.